You are listening to The Robert Scott Bell Show.
These days, it's more important than ever to know where our food and supplements come from. That's why at Plus CBD Oil, we believe it is critical to manage every step of the supply chain process. It all starts with certified hemp seeds. Our hemp grows tall, like bamboo, and is harvested within 3 months. After harvest, the hemp is dried and sent to our CO2 extraction facility, where our raw formula is extracted. The extracted oil is then lawfully imported to our state-of-the-art in-house laboratory in San Diego, California. There, we convert our raw formula into our total plant complex and gold formula oils. Our oils are then used to formulate our award-winning Plus CBD oil product line. The products are then tested for cannabinoid content and the absence of harmful substances. But we go one step further. We then send our products to a third-party laboratory to verify concentration, quality, and safety. After that, the products have finished their journey and are ready to be shipped to your local health food store. Because at Plus CBD Oil, we believe how you do anything is how you do everything. That's why, from seed to shelf, we are committed to providing safe and effective hemp CBD products for you and your loved ones. It's our promise to you. Learn more about our commitment to full traceability at pluscbdoil.com.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
I listen to get accurate, up-to-date information.
I've learned so much from him.
It is awesome. It's the best entertainment that I've found.
You rock the health world. Keep it up. I love you.
Now, the voice of health, freedom, and liberty, here's Robert Scott Bell.
This is ridiculous. The CDC used to say if you've had close contact with someone with coronavirus, meaning within 6 feet of them for 15 minutes or more, you should get tested. Now they're saying you should consider getting tested, but you might not need to unless you're a vulnerable person, which usually means older or have an underlying health condition, or your doctor or local public health official tells you to. What people who are exposed to someone with coronavirus should get tested. Experts will tell you that is the case. Why wouldn't you want to get tested? And this kind of back and forth with very subtle language where you have to click on 3 different places to figure out what they mean is crazy making. It is not public health communication. It is clearly pressure from some force in some way. If you want to communicate clearly to the American public, the CDC knows how to do that. They do that for a living. They are not doing it here, and there must be a reason for it.
Oh, quit your crying, CNN. That is like, wow, cry babies. Did you see? The CDC has changed its tune overnight, quietly, no big press conference, no big announcement. And suddenly we're dealing with what is going on at the CDC. They're saying now not everybody needs to get tested. Finally, some semblance of sense from the CDC. And now CNN is crying and bitching and complaining and moaning about it. Welcome, my friends, to the Robert Scott Bell Show. We are here 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. This is our wonderful Wednesday edition for those of you listening and watching live with Ty Bollinger going outside the box as we do each and every Wednesday. Great picture of TMB and me, RSB, at a Braves game long before there was Corona crazy. This is the CDC flip-flops we're going to open with today. Testing reversals, quarantine drops, masking arguments, HCQ studies, plasma debates, facial recognition in the era of masking, elbow coughs, poor Elmo going down, pandemic relationships, pharmacist vaccines, Swedish false positives, and meatballs as well. And, of course, my lovely melons. My lovely watermelons, I shall say, Super Don. I know, I got you. I had to say it. Watermelons. I harvested a watermelon, and you saw some of the pictures. I talked about it and cut it, and it was just sweetest, juiciest melon ever, watermelon, and it had seeds in it. None of this seedless garbage. And I have to say, it was my first one harvested. I didn't know. I was like waiting around. Then Dr. Ravi the other day said, thump on it. If it sounds kind of hollow, whatever. It did. I'm like, I'm going to go for it. And Dr. Ravi was right again. Not that he's ever wrong, but there you go. So happy watermelon. I may have a picture or two we could show later. Garden pictures, maybe we can fit into the mix. So I've got more watermelons coming as well. And it's been great. I'm thinking already, I'm getting messages from folks that are gardeners like me. I'm a gardener now. That say, hey, now that you've got your first year, even though there's more harvesting to go under the belt, now it's time to think about what you're going to do next year. I was already thinking about that. It's like I definitely have the farmer genes going on because I was like,
that's actually something I got to do because the place that we're moving into has 3 big raised garden boxes.
Raised beds, Oh, excellent.
Yeah, raised beds. So I got
this is going to be great.
It'll be too late by the time we get in there.
Well, you can prepare the beds for spring already. You could do some things to mix into the soil.
We're going to have a lot to do with just the house, but
who cares about living in the house? It's about the gardens next year.
I know. I'll just set up a teepee outside.
That's good. So no, it's just this idea of having succeeded in this new adventure, figuring out what works, what doesn't, shifting where I'll grow things, changing, and that's like my wife and I were talking about that already, and so that's the exciting thing about. We have stuff to look forward to, folks, as does Super Don. He's going to be gardening next year. It won't just be everybody else's gardening pictures. It will be Super Don's. I'm so thrilled. See, this is in the era of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen tomorrow? We got, oh my gosh, do you know what's going to happen tomorrow? Super Don's going to be growing a garden. That's awesome. See what I'm talking about? It's not doom and gloom here on the Robert Scott Bell Show.
But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. So let's look at this first story as
National Dog Day, by the way.
National Dog Day?
Today is National
The dog days of summer?
So if you got doggies, give them an extra pat on the head because it is National Dog Day.
Okay. All right. So let's go to our first story. We kind of opened with it and then got sidetracked for a good reason, a positive, powerful, uplifting reason.
Distracted by melons.
Yes, as always. It happens to the best of us. CDC reverses COVID-19 guidance, says testing may not be needed after exposure. The change comes as experts continue to push for more testing, not less. Now, who are these experts? Do these experts have conflicts of interest, political, pharmaceutical, etc.? You bet they do. And Super Don was just firing me up before we got on the air, just talking about this. It's like, because CNN and others are complaining. What the heck? The CDC's changed? It means the Trump administration is pressuring them. Oh, how dare they? As if this is something new for the CDC, a purely political organization, if there ever was one, economic and political and pharmaceutical, whatever the agenda of the head of the executive branch is, whether it be Obama, Bush, Clinton, we can go on back, the CDC will do. The policy of Fauci, the emperor. And that's what we're dealing here with. Right? Remember, this is not new that CDC bows to what they call political pressure. But it isn't as if that there aren't experts that have views different from the experts that are already at CDC. This is news to you, CNN? It's like, what do you think the CDC is? They're the marketing and distribution arm of the vaccine industry. Is that not political economic? That's not pure science. There's conflicts of interest in every agenda that they espouse or every expert that says you must do this, whether it's sneeze into your elbow. We'll get into that. They could be wrong about that too. They're wrong about so much. So if we go back into this, everything the CNN anchor was doing, I was applauding. I was like, she's saying they're not recommending testing for everybody now. You're dang straight. That's about time. As I said in my lecture on last Saturday at the big rally, stop the test. The test is crap. I've been right all along on this, even though there's some nuanced arguments that are coming out we may get into today as well. Some red herrings, some distractions on the COVID-19 test, PCR. So the guidance now says that healthy people who have been exposed to COVID-19 do not necessarily need a test as long as they don't have symptoms. See, that to me is rational, logical, because what is the COVID-19 test, which I say it's not a COVID-19 test, do? It doesn't determine infectivity. It doesn't even determine that you are infected necessarily, if that even means anything in relation to this COVID-19 RNA sequence, because they've never taken the test out and blinded the results sent them to experts for interpretation. Tell us what patient A, B, C, or number of the patients. You don't know them. Based on this test, what do you predict is happening with patient A or X, whatever? Never been done, never will be done, because you'll find out what a crock of you-know-what the PCR is as far as identifying infectious agents, acute or chronic, as said Kary Mullis, the Nobel Prize-winning scientist who developed it. So what's wrong with them saying, you know what, we can ease up on the test a little bit? No, there's everything right about that other than the complaints that, oh, this is a political thing because Trump doesn't want more tests showing us more cases. But positive tests by RT-PCR are not necessarily cases. They're not necessarily infections with anything. They don't know. You don't know. We don't know. I don't know. We don't know what it means. We just know what it doesn't mean, at least at this point. They're leaping. They're jumping the shark, the chasm so wide that it should be embarrassing. So the quotes in this article from NBC, it seems that new guidance is actively discouraging people from seeking testing. Well, good. It's about time, even if they have a known exposure. Yeah, because the tests are crap. That's a good thing. But of course, public health people, they're all about collectivizing, and tests that don't mean anything are important to them because they can alter the public response, the public behavior. They could shut down whole economies, man. You don't think there are serious power trips in public health right now? You don't think that Fauci has gotten some jollies out of the ability to say something and then the whole world shudders in fear? You say everybody should wear a mask and everybody's wearing a mask. Think about the power trip that dude is on, or anybody in public health who says these things. Don't think that they're not driven by ego and self-gratification for, whoa, did you hear what happened? I said this and look what they did, right? There is a nefarious agenda afoot, has been afoot for a long time since the germ theory came about, and now played itself out in the fear porn of coronavirus, plandemics, scamdemics. So let's see. Not all experts saw the guidance in a negative light. Okay, let's find out. I agree that reflex testing of anybody with a significant exposure is unnecessary and not the best policy. Whoa, they actually quoted somebody that disagreed with the test everybody for everything no matter what. Those individuals with significant exposures, they say, should quarantine for 14 days. According to Amish Adalja, Bala can get me on that one, a senior scholar with the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Self-quarantining, however, is not mentioned in the CDC's new guidance, but the agency does address when to quarantine. So let's go to the second change, the second shift. Oh, wait a second. They did comment on quarantining. The CDC just dropped its 14-day quarantine recommendation for travelers. What is Andrew Cuomo going to do now? What is de Blasio going to do now? Because they've been quarantining people from states they said they didn't like. Right? Now, the CDC says, well, maybe it's not necessary to do this 14-day quarantine. You may feel well and not have any symptoms, but you can still spread it. It goes, but you and your traveling companions may spread even at 14 days. Okay, so if they're still acknowledging and saying that or claiming that, where is this traveling quarantine reversal coming from? Super Don, let me ask you, is this part of the crying of CNN going, they've just changed? There's no reason that they're saying this. It's all Trump and political pressure. It's politics. It's the election. I'm like, well, duh. It's always been about that. What? That's news? Why is this news?
Yeah. Well, just because something's always been that way doesn't make it okay, though. Right?
It's totally okay, especially when they're doing the right thing.
Totally. Oh, I see.
Come on, give me some applause. You got sound effects. You're not giving me anything? No booze, no nothing? You got stuff. Bring it. Thank you. Now we're talking. So, Super D, you got me really hot under the proverbial collar.
I did. Look, the point that I'm making is, and you know, I gotta do a Elvis Presley. Thank you very much.
There's a few of them I want to add in when you add yours in. So yes.
Okay. Well, this morning, I saw this big flip-flop thing. You know, I mean, it's just crazy. In the last couple of days, we've been having a little bit of fun at the CDC's expense because it was just like, look, now look, they said this, then now they're saying this, and then another one, look, they said that, now they're saying this. And so we've been teasing them a little bit over the last couple of days. And then this morning, I saw these news stories, and I was looking at this, and I'm just like, okay, wait a minute. So now they're saying you don't have to necessarily get tested. They're saying that you don't have to be quarantined. They're saying if people don't wear a mask, just leave them alone. I was like, this is the complete opposite of what they've been saying. I was like, I could see a place. And in fact, I think I even said CNN when we were talking about this. I said, I could see something like from a CNN perspective, they would look at this and they'd go, wait a minute. This is what Trump has been trying to get people to do. No, this is something that Trump is making them do. This is an agenda. This is the reason why they're changing it, because it's so crazy. It's hard statistically, trying to be a critical thinker here. Statistically speaking, what are the odds that they would change 10 different policies all at the same time, 180-degree change from what they were saying a week ago, right? That to me is just like, that just doesn't make sense. So I was like, I'll bet you CNN is probably going to blame Trump for this. They're going to say, oh, Trump is making them do it.
Nailed it.
And then it was like 2 hours later, suddenly CNN comes out with this news article.
Yeah.
Where they're blaming Trump, and they're saying that they're pressured from the top down to do.
Oh, you knew what was coming. You did, and I will vouch for it. Yeah, Elvis has not left the building. Super Don is right. But my point is, when I say there should be a moment of duh, it's like, what has the CDC been since pretty much its inception? A political and economic organization within the government. I would call it unconstitutional, part of the oligarchy that serves at the bidding of whoever's in charge of the executive branch, or even beyond the president, like a Fauci who supersedes and pre-exists and post-exists presidents after president, and the pharmaceutical industry that has captured that agency. So what do we know about Trump's espoused agenda? One of it is to take on big pharma, right? There's a lot of, let's say, dichotomies in that statement, because he's going warp speed for a vaccine. At the same time, he's made it miserable for the pharmaceutical companies to maintain monopoly status on new drugs when he's kind of making them cheaper and generic and more available and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of reasons the pharmaceutical monopoly does not like Trump. And in this case, to see the policy shift at CDC, my only question is what took them so long? How long did it take for the Trump administration to finally push their pressure, because it's their administration now, to say, y'all get into line? Because they, as Jonathan Emord has said, he could control the FDA, could rein them in a second if he wants to, by directing their energies in certain ways and eliminating the need to go other ways. So for me, this is a refreshing shift of policy at CDC, and that doesn't include one we didn't even mention. Check this one out. CDC is now warning against arguing with anti-mask customers. You know what?
It's so funny. I mean, it's just bizarre to me, right? It's like suddenly we're like in agreement with the CDC. Yay, go CDC! we should make T-shirts, right?
I won't go that far, but right. This is fascinating. You know what I think this is? This is Charlene Bollinger talking with the president. This is Ty's lovely and powerful wife, Charlene. We'll have to check in with
We'll have to get
Ty
some verification on that. Yeah.
Yeah, because what is Charlene? He talked about the vaccines, the mercury, the flu shots, all of that. And it's not like he didn't already know it. Trump knows it, but it was like a reinforcement. And don't tell me that he's not got a lot of people that are aware of the things we're aware of to varying degrees, also in his ear as advisors going, you know what? You got to put a stop to this nonsense. This is ridiculous. This has gone too far. And at a certain point now, he feels heading into the election. And I don't know if you witnessed any of the RNC.
No.
But apparently they have 6 times the ratings of the Democrats.
On C-SPAN, I saw something, about that.
And other channels. It's like the image that they're putting out there, one of positive messaging, uplifting messaging that people are, even on the left, are going, those that are walking away from there going, I can't deal with all this anger and hatred anymore. Even if they're not going to, or if they still hate Trump, they're going, I like that a lot better than what's going on with the Democrats, where all they're doing is gripe, bitch, moan, and complain. Even Michelle Obama, complete negative messaging, right? So there is a hunger for positivity now. The shift at the CDC is significant. Although not that we take our marching orders from CDC. We're just acknowledging, wow, isn't that interesting? How refreshing. That organization is finally coming to its senses. And I would agree with CNN, probably because of pressure, but I don't have a problem with that because that's the way it's always been.
Well, and I get it. To me, it's like, all right, so imagine if Biden wins the election. Okay.
I don't want to.
I understand. Well,
I'm not going to do it, Super Don. You can't make me.
I can't. You're right. I can't. But hypothetically, if Biden won the election,
hypodermically,
I'm guessing that the CDC could very well then change their guidelines then.
Oh, absolutely they would.
We would see mask mandates, vaccine mandates,
elbow sneezes again.
The whole deal, right? Yeah. And at that point then we would disagree with the CDC, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So to me, I understand what you're saying. You agree with what the CDC guidelines are because you agree with what they are.
No, I don't agree with the CDC guidelines until they say no testing whatsoever because the tests are crap.
Okay, so whatever. So you're more in favor of what the guidelines say.
Incremental. Okay. Yeah. Percentage-wise, a little better than yesterday. Right.
Okay. And we could say then it's because Biden's president is the reason why that they changed those guidelines and now they want to mandate it.
Absolutely. Again, that's what I'm saying. This is not a news story other than the fact that it is.
So the argument, I guess, the difference that we have between you and I on this situation is not so much what those guidelines are, but why those guidelines are changed. And I have a problem with that.
Okay.
You acknowledge the fact that those guidelines are changing as a result of pressure from the president, when in reality, if anybody's going to put any guidelines out there, it should be based on solid science, not what the president wants them to do.
Oh, yeah, that would be like an ideal world when Martians fly out your butt, that would happen. Because they've never had solid, sound science coming out of the CDC making these statements of definitive, right?
Look at me standing on principle, and you sounding like, get off my lawn.
The policies of the CDC have never been rooted in what you just said you want them rooted in.
Okay, all right.
That's my point. It's never been the ideal that you would say, oh, it would be great if we had our airy-fairy super Don society and they would just do. I'm totally busting on you now. This is great. I love this.
I think it's awesome.
Never happened.
We've kind of swapped places temporarily on this topic. It's great.
Oh my gosh, what has happened today? It's Wonderful Wednesday. We're having a great time. And folks, you know what? You can choose to be miserable if you want. I ain't doing it. How many of you had enough of the misery over all of this stuff? As I said, unplug from it other than if you want to let us view it, observe it, report on it, and be as silly as we can about it and have our little spats, right? Oh my gosh, our Super Don and Robert Scott Bell, are they breaking up? What happened to the radio marriage?
Tune in next week.
It's soap opera time on the Robert Scott Bell Show. No, we're having a great time here. In fact, pointing these things out is wonderful. And we'd love to hear from you. What is your feedback? Are you on Super Don's side or are you with RSB? Because, you've got to divide. The Hegelian dialectic, it doesn't work.
Text Super Don
right
to 883-9. No.
Yes, that's right. Let's divide and conquer. The Hegelian dialectic is taking over the Robert Scott Bell Show. Let's see. What else we got to do? Another study on hydroxychloroquine. Check this out. This study, and this is at Medical Express. Let me show everybody. It's also linked in the show notes at robertscottbell.com. Study finds hydroxychloroquine reduces in-hospital COVID-19 mortality.
What?
Wait a second. What? Oh, wait. Did Trump have something to do with this? Did Trump do this? I don't think so.
Unless he's Italian.
Has he got some Italian relatives?
What's the Italian study?
An Italian observational study contributes to the ongoing debate regarding HCQ in the current pandemic. That is not a pandemic. The research, by the way, do you have that image I sent you from Ireland? We reported on before, but it's pretty powerful, the visual, in terms of all-cause mortality. Well, I want to show that eventually, too. Yeah. Published in the Journal of Internal Medicine, the study was coordinated by the Department of Epidemiology and Prevention, basically somewhere in Italy, all right, in the Mediterranean, Naples. Researchers analyzed data regarding the current and previous diseases, therapies followed before the infection, and drugs administered in the hospital, specifically for the treatment of COVID-19. All this information was compared with, so it's a comprehensive observational study. No, it's not a double-blind placebo-controlled. It's observational, it's retrospective, but there's a lot you can learn after the fact. What do they say about hindsight is 20/20? You have information you didn't have when you first started. And they're saying patients treated with hydroxychloroquine have a 30% lower in-hospital mortality rate compared to those not receiving treatment. And remember, the irony here, of course, is that they say, oh, HCQ, if it works at all, it's only for those early stages when you're not in the hospital. But here's one that's saying even if you were in the hospital, various stages, it's still showing a significant benefit in the reduction of mortality. Wow, that's just bizarre. That is not CNN Trump pressuring Italian researchers to publish this. This is more about paying attention to doctors, even in hospitals, and then reporting data after it's already been happening, and then just going, well, look, what does it show us? What do we learn from that? Right? Back to the concluding paragraph here. In the past months, the WHO recommended the stopping of using HCQ on the basis of an international observational study, subsequently retracted because the data was crap. It was made up. And it was a concerted effort by the pharmaceutical church to convince you and everybody that the only thing to do is wait for a vaccine, and in the meantime, get your government or insurance companies to shell out tens of thousands of dollars for remdesivir or some other kind of experimental or new novel drug that is under patent protection, and it can be marked up millions and zillions of percent like a PCR test does with unknown genetic material. So, Super D, what do you think of that?
This is just, it's like this whole first hour here, or at least the first, half of the show, first hour is just, it's all related to each other, in that you have got all this conflicting information that is being put out by the media. Now, hydroxychloroquine, we've been talking about this for a while, going back to the frontline doctors, and even before that. And, the media wants you to believe that hydroxychloroquine is worthless, does nothing, actually kills people, and is a crazy idea that Donald Trump threw out there, and he should be tarred and feathered for it, right?
Yeah.
But then here comes this study published in the European Journal of Internal Medicine that says the complete opposite of that. That says, you know what, actually, we've been using this, and it's actually saving people's lives, basically.
Yeah.
And so it's just so frustrating to see this.
Yeah.
That the hydroxychloroquine is, according to everybody, every expert and every whatever doctor that they put up on CNN, is settled science, right? But what about the science that's going on in Italy? Unless they want to say, oh, those Italian scientists don't know what they're doing.
What about the science in Israel or
India,
Africa or India?
Wherever, where all of this other science is going on, they more often than not will contradict the science that's going on in the United States, especially when it's tied to a drug or a vaccine.
Yeah. So what did you call it before we went to air? Scientific.
I don't remember. It was an inspiration, but I can't remember it now.
Right. Well, it was kind of xenophobic. Xenophobia.
Oh yeah. Scientific. Yeah.
Scientific xenophobia.
Scientific xenophobia.
Yeah.
Is what you've got going on here, because it seems like scientists, unless it's something that they agree with, they will just poo-poo it.
Yeah.
As well. That's those Italian scientists. They're so busy eating pizza and stuff that they don't know how to do real science like we do here in the United States. Not to say that we don't have talented scientists here. We do. But you can't just dismiss. It's a complete logical fallacy to say that that there's no way that science is accurate because it disagrees with our science, because that's not how science works.
Listen, we got to take a break, bottom of the hour. And when we come back, we're talking apologies. FDA is going to apologize. I'm going to apologize to Super Don about the Martians flying out his butt, because apparently Martians don't exist. I didn't know. Who knew? We'll get to that.
I don't know that. They could exist.
A whole lot more.
Have you been to Mars?
You know what? You could probably prove they exist via PCR. That's it. I'm just going to give it all up. we got a lot more.
Been to Mars anyway, because you can't get past the dome.
That's right. No, it's the Van Allen radiation belt. Anyway, folks, the place for health, freedom, and healing liberty. A little bit of frivolity and pretend Hegelian dialectics. The Robert Scott Bell Show continues after this. Say thanks to our friends at Trinity School of Natural Health, trinityschool.org, and, of course, the Trinity Health Freedom Expo. Going virtual Hope y'all will be there from wherever you are, because you can be.
For thousands of years, the iris has been examined to determine potential deficiencies and health issues in the body. Every human optic nerve contains between 800,000 to 1.7 million nerve fiber endings. These nerves connect our eyes to the brain and continue down our spinal cord, connecting to every organ and gland in our body. This course utilizes the iridology chart developed by Bernard and Ellen Jensen, which tells us what markings in the iris may be pointing to issues in certain organs or glands. In this course, you will learn how to identify the genetic strengths and weaknesses with organs, glands, and tissues, tendencies towards tissue irritation and inflammation, how to find the potential ability of an organ's reaction to the presence of illness, discernment of familial patterns of illness, including digestive issues, blood sugar tendencies, blood anomalies, and heart issues, and how to locate potential nervous system imbalances, spinal subluxations, circulatory disturbances, connective tissue weakness, and much, much more. Iridology is a fascinating art and science. Learning it will change the way you look at the human eye. If you're interested in learning iridology or have questions whether it's right for you or not, please send us an email or call and get started on your journey to transform the world.
All right, y'all, trinityschool.org, the place to go for great health care, real healing education to help yourself and others, your community. And we are more in desperate need of that than ever before. They're going insane in the medical world. What is it? Up, down, right, left? They don't know. They root on what? Big pharma to win. Why? How would they win? Well, they win by, if they develop a magic vaccine, and they'll win. They'll make $1 trillion. What are we talking about? Bill Gates, conflict of interest. Well, he's just such a, what would we call it? A philanthropist. He's just donating all of this money. And then he's bragging about the 20-to-1 return on investment. Oh, yeah, sure, it was out of the kindness and goodness of his lizard brain. No, I don't think so. And then we got more treatments coming than we know what to do with. You know, we've talked about it from the beginning here. Selenium being the key, silver being right along with that. The two S's, selenium and silver. Selenium stops viral activity if you believe in that stuff, or exosomal activity if you're concerned about it. Dysregulation of cells. Silver stops viral replication, and it modulates immune response. There's so many things that we can do that there shall be no more fear of proclaimed viral pandemics. Even the FDA chief now is apologizing for things. But what is this apology all about? Apparently, he overstated the effect of plasma on the coronavirus, or plasma, the treatment. Scientists and medical experts have been pushing back against the claims about the treatment. But put a pause on the treatment issue, Super Don, and put up another scary statistic visually done via, what do they call this? A graph. We've reported on this before. And if this is a pandemic year, then Martians are flying out of my butt because you don't have fewer deaths in a pandemic year than you do in any other year. It's on top of whatever is the average. We reported on this earlier in the year. All-cause mortality Ireland, January through May, went back 5-6 years. And you'll see it fluctuates. It varies a little bit. 2015, over 13, almost 14,000. 2016, just about the same. Then it drops a bit in 2017. Then it climbed a bit higher in 2018. Then it dropped significantly in 2019. And it rebounded not all the way in 2020. The height of the scamdemic, pandemic. You have lower death, all-cause mortality in Ireland, one country. Now, we've been reporting and hearing about other countries, including the United States, seeing a similar drop-off in all-cause mortality. That, folks, makes no sense in a pandemic year. In a pandemic year, let me make this as clear as possible. You have an expected rate of death. How many people die every day, every month, every year? We know it. We've averaged it. It's not an unknown thing. It's not something you can, I guess you could fudge by erasing and but no, it's out there. And so you have a pandemic year, you have additional deaths on top of whatever the average is. Do you understand? It's not complicated. So if you claim this is a pandemic year and you have no additional deaths, in fact, and even better, you have fewer deaths overall, then what the hell is going on? What is going on? Now, we have been talking about the reduction in visits to doctors and hospitals overall as being the prime mover of the numbers lower, right? Because we have statistical significance, peer-reviewed medical literature talking about when doctors go on strike and hospitals shut down, all-cause mortality in the area or country just drops precipitously. They go back to work, it comes right back up. So it's a significant factor in annual all-cause mortality, iatrogenocide. Third leading cause of death acknowledged. Again, I argue first and second, but let's put that aside for a moment. Let's say you take significantly down the visits to doctors and hospitals in a given calendar year or calendar month. Would you expect a rise in deaths or a drop in deaths? Based on the history of this, a drop and a significant one. So if you can prove there is some kind of new, novel, viral pandemic, you will have to conclude that it was so weak and mild and insignificant, of course, not to those who died, although I do not acquiesce to their claims that they were killed by this virus. If at best they could say maybe with it, at best. But let's give them the deaths due to it. And at best, those numbers pale in comparison to all-cause mortality when you take out just iatrogenic deaths, medical deaths. So, even in a pandemic year, you're more likely to survive if you don't go to the doctor than if you do. There's the conclusion. One day, we're already there. You may already be here with us, but one day we'll look back on calendar year 2020 and go, you know what? Doctors are more dangerous than germs. As I believe Harvey Bigelson, if I remember his name, a medical doctor, wrote a book called Doctors Are More Dangerous Than Germs. It's the God's honest truth. The germ theory is bunk. It's crap. If there are germs that are problematic, it's the result of the terrain that has been corrupted due to toxicity and or deficiency. And even then, we might argue that the germs are there trying to remediate a corrupted environment because you've given them a food supply that the healthy stuff doesn't eat. They come up to try and eat it up. And of course, if that imbalance continues, you can poison yourself to death eventually with the drugs that are utilized to so-called protect you or help you or nurse you back to health or poison you back to health. So, Super Don, what do you make of this FDA chief apologizing? Because this seems to be right along the lines of all the crazy that's been going on today. The pushback.
Well, it's another example of how the media is having an issue with anything that Trump is behind when it comes to dealing with this quote situation, this pandemic or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because Han, who's the sounds like I'm talking about Han Solo, huh? Han said that he should have worded it differently. When he gave this press conference about the plasma, he said that the data show an absolute risk reduction. And he came back and he said, whoops, I'm sorry. Okay, what I should have said was relative risk reduction. And that was his apology.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like a major thing, but he wanted to come out and say it. And so what you've seen here, just like with the hydroxychloroquine, which obviously is not settled science, as we've talked about, and the oleandrin, which, he came out and they bashed and jumped all over him and Mike Lindell. And, some of that I think was justified. But here now he comes out and says convalescent plasma, which, as we pointed out yesterday, was something that the CNN expert dude that they brought on
to criticize
was something that would have been made more sense to look into. And then when he looks into it, now they bash him and saying that there's no proof. Why should you do it? So again, today, I don't know. Today just seems to be the day to find contradicting information in health news. There is a study, or I guess an opinion here out of Medical Express, talking about how survivors' plasma is still a solid option for treating COVID-19.
Yep, I see it. There it is.
Excuse me, but that's not what CNN says. That's not what MSNBC says. That's not what the Washington Post says.
Because plasma is political. It starts with the letter P.
It is. It has become political.
Plasmalytical.
So they actually come out here. Now, this is coming from the chief. Where is it here? She is the, let's see, come on.
FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn citing
Chief of Biomedical Research at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine and Montefiore Medical Center in New York City. So, I don't know this person personally, but I'm assuming they kind of should at least have some knowledge in this area. Chair of biomedical research. Anyway, they say that there is data coming in from all around the world that's showing that this antibody-loaded plasma taken from COVID-19 survivors can help people fight off an infection. This is what they're saying.
Dude, there's so many ways to get there. But
there are. Now, I would say, though, Robert, would you not be more in favor of a plasma situation versus remdesivir?
I think
versus a vaccine.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Right.
And I know that.
It would be kind of like, would you rather, a fecal transplant,
or taking a probiotic orally, right?
Yeah. I think it's a better option.
Coffee
you're not
or
injecting
Cangest for Superdone.
Yeah, exactly. Good example. Good example.
So, viability, you get to determine it with your doctor if you have one, or if you don't, then you're not going to go down that road because you don't need to. Because here on the Robert Scott Bell Show, what do we got? We got silver. We got selenium. We've talked all kinds of immune modulation. If you like zinc, that's fine, but selenium is way more critical in stopping what you are fearing if you are fearing viral activity of any kind or exosomal activity. So this has been a very interesting show thus far, Super D, because it's kind of like the spotlight shining a light into areas where they don't want you to see, right? All of a sudden, we're caught. It's political. It's all political, right? As we know. At the same time, the differences, distinctions between our perspectives may not be that far apart here today, Super D, but it's very animated, and I love it. It's been fun. But recognizing that, well, ultimately, they're all so confused. We're not confused. I'm not confused.
We're not, but I understand. I understand and I think when you look at these things, when you put them side by side, you can understand why it is that the general public is so tired of this crap.
Yeah.
And half the people are like, I'm not getting a vaccine. And a ton of people are like, I'm not wearing a mask. Well, who in their right mind would, when you can't tell who's telling the truth and who's not? You've got to use your own brain at that point. And so I think, with all this confusion that's out there, I think it's a good thing in a way.
Yes.
Because what it's done is it's driven people to have to think for themselves. They've got to look at the situation and go, I have to make up my own mind on this. Because
you got two paths here, Super D, right?
Exactly.
And one was we've talked about, I think maybe even yesterday, the idea because we were getting angry, frustrated, depressed. We've talked about these three swings of the pendulum. And some people will just be defeated by all of this confusion. They'll go, well, I don't know what to do, so I'll just believe whoever I like better, right? I believe Trump because I like him. I believe Biden because I like him, or I don't like him, whatever it is. And there's that. That's the give it up, not in a good way scenario. But there are others, like you said, that get so disgusted and fed up and their adrenals are not totally burnt out that they go, dude, I'm not listening to these bozos anymore.
They're going to they're going to take what has been my perspective on things for a long time. And I've seen a lot of people that are doing this. They're just like, just shut up.
Yes.
Just leave me alone. I'm just going to go with my instinct. I'm going to do whatever it is that I want to do. Just leave me alone.
Wasn't that where I was today?
Get off my lawn.
And
that's where I think people should be, you know, rather than looking to the news or the internet for their truth.
Unless they're looking to the 10th Amendment Center to learn something. Then I'm like,
that's true. That's true.
I mean, like you said, we want to point that out. It's not that there are no sources for good information, but even so, as we point out here, we do perceive that we are a good source for information, but we don't want you to just blindly follow whatever we say. Well, unless Superdon says it, then it's okay. But me, no way. Double check, triple check it. The point is, get connected to the source of all sources, ultimately, that goes beyond your mental body, your mental construct. We talk about spirit, God, whatever you perceive it to be. Anyway, that leads us to, I think we got some questions of the day, Super D. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's do it.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
All right, first one's an easy one. It's coming from Yvonne. Yvonne, she says, where can I find your speech from Saturday at the Medical Freedom event? Super Don, help me out here, buddy. Where, pray tell, does it exist?
Well, you can find it on our Facebook page, at the Robert Scott Bell Show Facebook page. You can find it on our YouTube channel, and it's also on Brighteon as well.
Okay, let me just show it here while we are not deplatformed. Hopefully never, but not yet. I've got a page up where all the videos, you see the live one going on right now while you're watching. And then each day's show will go up here unless they ban it, which happens sometimes by YouTube. The one from 2 days ago, Rise Up Utah, Robert Scott Bell Rallies for Medical Freedom. You can click on that. That's still available to watch. The right to breathe freely and deeply. And I urge you and I encourage you, while we can, share this message. I think it's inspiring. That was my intent. And let me know. Maybe it upsets somebody who believes in these tests like religious sacrament, but my goal and role at that lecture was to dismantle that belief system for you so you can see through it. But you said it's also now up on Brighteon. Do you have
Correct.
the link? Can you put that in today's show notes as an answer to that? Because we love to support where it's not going to get censored through Mike Adams and Brighteon. So that would be excellent.
Okay.
So let's see. We have more questions of the day coming in. Let's see. This one's coming from Asia. I believe that's how to pronounce it, A-I-J-A. I think Asia has responded or questioned or commented before. Even though I wish that this COVIDiotism would peacefully resolve itself, at this point, I so much agree with you that it is finally time for the people to stand up for their freedom and rights. Things are not looking good, only in America, but in Europe too. Seems like the so-called second wave have started and travels are being banned again. Governments keep borrowing the money, companies keep losing money, and people will be losing their jobs. I got to correct you. Come on, stop with the loosing. L-O-S-I-N-G. Now, Asia, if you're not, English is not your first language, you have a good excuse. But Americans make this mistake all the time. Loosing. It's not loosing, it's losing. L-O-S-I-N-G. But why nobody is protesting? Where is the logic in all the travel bans and lockdowns? The new cases are going up a bit, but the mortality really seems to be staying very low. Why are we afraid of this virus, Asia? Well, the answer is clearly programming. It's it. Programming through fear and repetition. Your question about where are the protests in America? Super Don, did you see the preview for tomorrow's show of Del Bigtree, Highwire?
No.
He's like juxtaposing the way, and Michael Bolden pointed this out too. It wasn't just, Americans that sort of left and right, the genteel protests, right, the conservatives make. We don't want to upset anybody. But Americans in general, we see that the left is protesting in die-in fashion. They're going in and they're doing die-ins. To protest what? I'm not sure. Freedom, perhaps. They're protesting freedom. We don't want you to have freedom to not wear a mask, so we'll do a die-in. How dare you not mandate masks, right? But in Europe, man, there are by the thousands, tens of thousands, in some cases, maybe hundreds of thousands. We had a little one, 2,000 families, kids, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas. It was great. Good start. But it's just a start. You got to let them know, put them on notice that no longer will you acquiesce to their demands, their limitations, their prohibitions, their mandates. But Super Don, I'll be honest with you, as I always am. I'd like to say it's as easy as blink. I snap my fingers or blinked like Genie from I Dream of Jeannie, and it's all over. And I know that on some levels of existence, those things can happen. But this has been so deeply entrenched, the enslavement of the world to a global agenda, pharmaceutical, now population reductionist, lizard brain, Bill Gates agenda, that people don't know how deeply they are adhesed. I use this term, adhesed, contracts of adhesion. They don't know how many things have gotten stuck to them to where they're like pulling one thing off and finding out there are 100 other things still stuck to them as they try to dismantle and disconnect, right? Mm-hmm. I've talked about things that I've done over the years. Not to say everybody should do what I do, because that's your own personal decision. But when you figure out how much you are being like sucked on by a vampire, Your blood is being drawn out. The federal government, global governance, military industrial, pharmaceutical industrial, public health, just drawing everything out of you. You might say through taxation or other things, that you one day wake up perhaps and say, you know what, I'm tired of being the victim of a succubus of some kind, where all I am is an energy, an ever ready or a copper top like they did in the Matrix, right? Where you are basically a generator for energy for them to use that energy, at least partially, to keep you enslaved, keep you down, keep you on the farm, not in a good way, because now you're the chicken scratching for worms, and you're not the proverbial spiritual eagle flying, soaring high up above and seeing it all, right? So I don't want to be delusional about, it's just a snap of the finger, but at a certain point, there is a conscious awareness that will dictate your next move from within. Not because a dictator is telling you what to do. That you will now go, okay, I've done it this way all of these times and years, and maybe now we go back generations. We've been doing it this way. When do we figure out that voting the bums out really doesn't work all that well? If that were it, man, they would outlaw voting if it was that successful, right? That we've heard that before. So
too many bums.
Too many bums. Or even if they went in right, they get wrong when they get in there, whether it be through compromising positions, being bought off, any number of things. Or you're a Ron Paul that doesn't compromise, and they couldn't get in a compromising situation other than to smear them with stupid claims of racism, which is lazy.
Honestly, it's not the bums that are running things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
They go in and they follow orders from
what
deep
they need
state.
to get rid of or not people you can vote in. Or vote
Undoing the oligarchy, all of that. So what we're saying is decentralize, uncouple, decouple. I'm not saying if you're married, get divorced. That's not what I'm saying. But uncoupled from the intruder in your marriage or in your life, in your family. And that is always some form of government or some representative pretending to be not government, but really is. You got a license? Oh, you're controlled by governmental agencies. I'm sorry. That's just a fact. And doctors that lose their licenses or relinquish them suddenly find freedom. Stop asking for permission where none is required. They're so deep that this rabbit hole goes that to spend the time I would have to spend in the years I've studied on this, you would be bored to tears. We wouldn't have one person in the audience. Well, we might have one nerd or, like that, like us. But no, it's like, how do you go there? So that's why I say bypass the mental body for a little while, reconnect to the spiritual body, and get direct downloads of the spiritual information that helps you see through and have the spider senses like of a super don to see through a lot of this garbage and not be manipulated and victimized by it. And then you start living differently. And you're like, but how, Robert? How? Well, I'm not here to tell you how. You could watch what I do, apply it whatever you want. And when we do AMAs, you can ask me some more detailed questions. But the reality is the guidance comes from within. Or as I said in my lecture on Saturday, our orders, I take my orders from God, not government, right? And for some, that's scary. For atheists, that's scary because they don't believe in it. They think it's a flying spaghetti monster or something. But when you have lived that way long enough, you recognize that message, that communication does not ask you to harm anyone. It doesn't. Unless you're in defense, genuine defensive situation, then you have an obligation to defend life, liberty, property. But that's not a malicious act. That's a defensive act. And we seemingly can't tell the difference anymore at the global level where, occupation is now a kindness, right? And I always say to the liberals that say, they pretend they're not into foreign wars and incursions, which they are, when Nancy Pelosi says she doesn't want a wall. Not that I'm in favor of the wall totally because it's to lock us in too, right? But I say drop the walls around your house, Nancy, and invite all the immigrants that have just come on over into your kitchen. And then we'll see how well and consistent you're going to be on that statement, right?
Leave the front door unlocked. Yeah.
Which leads us to, I think we got a comment of the day. Yes, we do.
Hey, you guys!
Hey, I tell you what.
Hey, here's an idea.
All right.
Hey, listen up, everybody. Excuse me.
I got something to say.
All right, comments of the day. There are two of them. This first one is from James. James says, RSB and his audience, please pray for, if so inclined. See, that's a polite way to do it, Super Don, if so inclined. It's like, I would love for you to do it, but, I want to honor what you do or don't do, right? So, James, kudos to you. for all those in the path of Hurricane Laura, which is now predicted to be a Class 4 major hurricane at landfall early Thursday morning, if you have never been through a sustained winds of 130 to 145 mile an hour and gusts to 160, then thank God now, because it's far worse than you can imagine. And afterwards, if you evacuate, you come back to complete and utter devastation, he means. That could take years to try and recover from, and that's in good times. Keep all those on the Texas-Louisiana coast in your prayers. They will need him. God bless, James. James, nice message. Thank you for that. I haven't been paying attention to that. Super Don, you got it. Let me show everybody what it looks like. I mean, holy tamale, this is the first I'm seeing this. And I know that this will be old news for those that catch it in a couple of days, but yeah, that looks pretty vicious. Get out. And, you know, when we were last in Florida, we had a Category 1 hurricane come over us, and it was breaking down into a tropical storm at the time, and it was scary.
Yeah,
being
this
overnight.
thing's huge.
Yeah.
This thing's huge. And so from what I've read on it, this is going to be hitting the New Orleans area. It looks like hardest, right in between. You can see there Lake Charles.
Lake Charles. No, I don't think it'll hit New Orleans that hard. It's distant. But
New Orleans is going to be on the outskirts.
They'll
be
get some
getting
flooding, of course.
The bands and the surge
Lake
stuff.
Charles,
but, Category 4, when it makes landfall, that's 145 miles per hour winds. That's crazy.
That was one of our longest affiliates, Lake Charles, Louisiana, if you remember that. Used to get calls from Lake Charles when I first started from little old ladies with hangnails. I do remember that. Hope they're all right. One more comment of the day. Again, yes, prayers to those, and hunker down, get in good with God, of course, at all times. This is what they say: no atheists in the foxholes, in the trenches. But still, get your guidance to know whether it's safe for you to stay there or get out. All right, second comment of the day is coming from Wade. He says, this is for Super Don. Remember, was I mad at you? I wasn't mad at you for not knowing about Boston and Tom Scholz creating all that music. I was surprised you didn't know. That's what it was.
But I walked away from that situation going, now I feel kind of dumb. I guess I should have known that.
I didn't mean to make
that escaped me.
That's not what I meant.
That escaped me my entire life. I had no idea. I was kind of fascinated by it.
I guess, I'm in a bubble because I thought everybody knew that. It was just one of those things I knew.
And for people who don't know what we're talking about, I discovered yesterday morning before the show that the rock band, classic rock band, Boston, originated with one person, basically. Tom Scholz. He was big into sound recording, and he had his own studio in the basement of his house, and he created that first album.
Yeah, and got vocalist Brad Delpinder to sing it.
Specifically, the leading, I guess, the first single that they came out with, "More Than a Feeling" by Boston. That was created by one person, and then he brought one guy in to sing the vocals. And then it was being promoted as a band, right? This rock band Boston, but really it was like one person.
Dude. And even that song, we were just, another band out of Boston on the road band. Trying to, make ends meet. And it's like, no, he was just a guy in his basement, smart as a whip, creating music out of things. It's amazing what they did.
He's an engineer. Yeah.
So Wade says, my dad used to do Tom Scholz plumbing. Used to see him driving an old Bondo-covered Z28, that's a Camaro, in town, with a huge rust hole in the door, in stark contrast to the BMWs and other highbrow vehicles in town. Wade, Boston, MIT.
Z28, man, that was Harvard. A nice car.
Yeah, remember those Z28s? Well, in the 1970s, they weren't as nice as when they first came out in the late 60s. They started, but I remember those, of course. Those were fun.
Late 70s, early, was it early? When did they come out with the Pontiac Firebird with the T-top on it?
Oh, that was in the 70s too.
Yeah,
they had some ragtop Firebirds.
Those were
in the
great
60s.
cars, man.
Smokey and the Bandit.
Those were great cars. 5.8 liter.
Yeah, but once you got the EPA regulations on those big blocks, they sucked. They weren't powerful anymore. So you have to resto mod them, apparently. So anyway, hey, great hour of the Robert Scott Bell Show. Thanks for all the questions, the comments. Those of you in the chat room, thanks for helping each other out and welcoming you one and all to the United States and world of Health Talk Radio. We got a whole other hour of broadcast healing. Ty Bollinger is from an undisclosed location, a bunker somewhere. We'll see if there's light where he's at, and I'm sure he's having a good time. And we'll ask him about his lovely, beautiful, and powerful wife. Is she the one that got the CDC to change their policy on all of this stuff? Because she's just that awesome. We'll find out after this on the Robert Scott Bell Show, where the power to heal is yours.
The Robert Scott Bell Show. Robert Scott Bell Show.
Have you ever watched a movie with superheroes and villains? If so, you already understand the science of drinking hydrogen-enriched water and how to unlock true health. Allow me to explain. In our bodies, we have a natural struggle between superheroes and villains, with molecular hydrogen being the superhero and oxidative stress the villain. So how does knowing that give you the tools to unlock true health? Your body is naturally designed to fight oxidative stress through specific bacteria in the gut that creates hydrogen on their own. Pretty awesome, right? So why does this matter? Well, in most people, the hydrogen-creating bacteria is gone, and cancer and disease soon follow. So the real question is, why aren't we trying to fix this every day? Well, the answer is simple. It's hard. Even the most healthy of individuals who biohack take months or years to achieve this balance. But how do we get there without taking months or even years? After years of study and development, we discovered and designed the perfect technology that made it all possible. We call this technology Echo H2 water. Within minutes of drinking hydrogen-rich water from our Echo Hydrogen water machines, you are back in control, balanced, and feeling amazingly hydrated and healthy. Having your own Echo Hydrogen water machine is kind of like having your own team of superheroes on call, always available to fight the villains in your body. Pretty cool, right? But don't just take our word for it. Get your Echo H2 water machine today and quickly bring your body into balance with hydrogen.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
I listen to get accurate, up-to-date information.
I've learned so much from him.
It is awesome. It's the best entertainment that I've found.
You rock the health world. Keep it up. I love you.
Now, the voice of health, freedom, and liberty, here's Robert Scott Bell.
All right, this is it. Hour 2 commences now. The Robert Scott Bell Show is on. We're about to go outside the box with our good buddy Ty Bollinger from an undisclosed location, unless he decides to disclose it, because we may talk about it, Super Don. Kind of the things we've been bringing up, I've been bringing up for a while, and even when Ty's on, especially when he's on, we've been bringing up, it's like, where are the spiritual leaders? Where are the preachers, the pastors, the rabbis speaking out against this government takeover of our country and the diminishment of our ability to worship? And I think people are catching on and things are happening. So I'm excited about what we're going to do this hour.
Yeah, this whole thing has kind of struck a nerve with a lot of people in that situation. So
let me see if I can bring Ty Bollinger into the mix. Ty, there you are, going vertical because it's a phone thing, but it looks like you'll have better internet than at home. So we're going to be good to go. So what do you want to reveal about what's going on out there? I know you got a great article about musings and meanderings on the COVID thing we'll talk about, but something specific to what we've been bringing up together for a while.
Yeah, Charlene and I are down here for the next today and tomorrow in Texas at a meeting of just Christian leaders, businessmen, even some pastors, just trying to figure out how to how to awaken the sleeping giant, I guess, is what how you would determine to say it. I mean, it seems like the church has been largely silent on a lot of issues that the church should have been speaking up about. And so the reality of what we're trying to do is just figure out how to use our Christian influence to turn the country around. Because it's, I mean, it's insane, man. Look at what's going on every night on the nightly news. I'm like, is that Islamabad? What is this, Iraq? I mean, it looks like with the looting and the rioting, it doesn't even look like America anymore. But the reality is, that's the goal. The goal of the Maoist socialists is to destroy the country and rebuild it in another fashion. So that's what a lot of people that are, I would call just good, ignorant Democrats don't understand about the party, is it's been taken over. And it's no longer the Democratic Party. And I'm not anti-Democrat and I'm not a Republican. It's not the party of Kennedy any longer. They are extreme socialists that want to completely redo the fabric of the country. It's not, when we watched the DNC a week or two ago, and it was terrible, by the way. It was just, I was mortified. I was ashamed that the production value was so low. And that's not because I'm, conservative or don't like Democrats. It was terrible. But if you compare that to 2008, when Obama was running, I mean, the Democratic message back then, I was like, almost he maketh me vote Democrat, because he was so charismatic and he was so positive, even though we know it was not genuine, that he's pretty much a phony, but he came across as being really sincere, and he loved the country and wanted great things for America. And that's why so many people voted for him. And he had a good message. He had a lot of positive messages. Biden's got no message. The Democratic Party is nothing but Trump sucks. Put us in.
Did you hear about?
It's not the Democratic Party of even 12 years ago.
No. Did you hear Michelle Obama's messaging? I mean, it wasn't. Yeah. I missed the uplifting part. Was there? I mean, it was. If you are a liberal Democrat, whatever that even means anymore, you got to be going, man, this is depressing. And I've heard a lot of people, and I mean, the ratings are 6 times on C-SPAN for the Republican meeting, but you and I don't know, we don't claim party loyalty as much as principle loyalty. And one of the things, I don't know, I think I sent you the little presentation I did.
Come on in, that's fine.
I sent you the presentation that I did at the rally. We had Del Bigtree in and hashtag Megaphone Marine Court, Dr. Cordy. And, one of the ending statements, and I knew what I kind of wanted to do in this thing. And at the end, it was like, I want you to pay attention to this. And suddenly I said, we take our orders from God, not government. And it was one of those moments where it's like, my gosh, we've got to recognize that so much of where we've gone wrong is we've replaced the divine with the political, right? And although some people are afraid that, if you bring God into government, we're going to have a theocracy. No, it's honoring the limitations that our founders placed on government because they knew it would violate fundamental rights, which they put in the First Amendment, which was not rights granted to us in that, but acknowledged that were so very important. It was the first, including the right to worship, right? Freedom of religion. And so the attack, I'm just thinking, where are these people in religious organizations, churches, not recognizing that they are being assaulted directly? People of faith.
I think they're starting to, and we believe, we're really hopeful that this is awakened the sleeping giant of the church. But just at our table today we were speaking with a gentleman that's a businessman from over in San Francisco, and we were talking about, you saw the thing that Gavin Newsom put like the 95 Theses of Martin Luther and the Reformation. He's putting these "you can't meet" pieces of paper on the church door, right? Wow. Yeah. And you saw that happening, right? He's doing that to more churches. Well, the guy at our table, he said that just happened to them yesterday. The state of California literally came to their church to put a notice on their door that they couldn't meet. And he said they ran them off the property before they could post anything on the door, because he said this is private property and you can't come on it unless you have a warrant. And they didn't actually put it on the door, but they tried. So they're trying to do this. They're trying to limit, your ability to worship. I mean, it's really crazy if you look at it. And then you have this out of the same guy's mouth. You hear Newsom say some things. You're like, man, this guy's really sincere on what he believes. And the reality is, I think he's a really good actor. But, because how can you justify locking down a whole state? How can you justify saying that you can, the bars are open, but the churches are closed? You really can't. I'm sure he's sold out to somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
You don't know who, but he's sold out.
Yeah. Well, it is Outside the Box Wednesday here on the Robert Scott Bell Show. Ty Bollinger is attending a major event. I think our buddy Casey Krejci invited him. We're going to have Casey on Friday to talk more about the outreach and the accessibility of some kind of presentation that from around the world you can watch it. We'll get those links up. We have links to a number of different stories this hour. First up is Ramblings, Musings, and Concerns about COVID-19. And this is an article, Ty, you and your lovely wife wrote about. Here it is, over at thetruthaboutcancer.com. Of course, last week we had Charlene on, and people absolutely went bonkers. They're like, Charlene, yeah. I'm like, we're both chopped liver when Charlene's on. It's like, what do we need to be here for? But she was terrific, and I think about what's been going on. Did you freeze up? Did Ty freeze up, Super Don?
I can still hear him.
I can hear you, Ty. Are you there? Oh, there he is. I see you moving again. I apologize. Trying to get through this thought, if I even have one here, about last week having Charlene on talking to the president about vaccines, particularly the flu shot and on, just reinforcing what we know Trump already knows about the danger of vaccines. And yet, lo and behold, today we're hearing all of these things about the CDC backing off of certain things like masking, quarantining, a number of things like the drugs, convalescent serum stuff. And I'm thinking, dude, Charlene's really awesome, man. She must have talked about more than she let on.
Yeah, she's doing a lot of things behind the scenes y'all don't tell anyone. But I mean, it's good news. It's good news they're backing off on some of the stupid stuff. That I'm glad to see they're backing off on the masking, at least a little bit. That was one of the things that I've addressed in many articles. This article, I wrote this article over the weekend. I'm just laying there thinking all these rambling thoughts about coronavirus. So I was like, I just got to get up and write these down, or type them up. I say write down. I haven't used a physical pen in a long time, but type stuff up. So I started typing it up, and it just became the article. But it's just a bunch of ramblings about COVID and a lot of the nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I can't, because I'm on my phone. If I pull up another window on my phone, it'll lock up the camera, so I can't look at it. I was trying to look at it just now. That's what happened.
I got you covered because I got the article up for everybody to see, and you talk about multiple angles of attack, and the public service announcements that they're planning to guilt you, embarrass you, anger you, attack personal freedom, attack economic freedom, self-interest, community interest, science and authority, not bravery, and we've seen this a lot that. They're kind of shaming people, attempting to, or at least eliciting a response in people to shame others for, oh, you're selfish for not wearing a mask. It's like, why am I'm not sick. Why am I wearing, if you want to wear a mask, I didn't say you can. If that mask doesn't work, only if mine works. Again, it's the vaccine logic, which it lacks completely. So yeah, to your point of where they're targeting it, they're MO, so to speak, is very obvious, apparent, and out there. They're not even hiding it.
Yeah, and that's it's kind of shocking that they're not even hiding it. The one of the things I wrote about was this. They commissioned Yale to do a study, and that's the part of what you were just talking about was, what different angles can we attack people or present the vaccine to people to make them take it, whether we guilt them into it or it's a little bit of greater good mentality or whatever it might be. They had like 9 different angles that they determined would be the most effective to basically guilt people into taking the vaccine. So this is shocking that this is an open study, and they know that they're going to have problems getting people to take the vaccine. So they're openly admitting, yeah, we're going to figure out what's the best way basically to brainwash you or to propagandize your mind so that you take the vaccine. And they're going to have to do that because a lot of people are really becoming concerned about the safety of the vaccine, even mainstream guys like Hotez.
Yeah, that's been a shocker that these cheerleaders for vaccinations are acknowledging vaccine injury potential, dangers, adverse event potential. And, what would we call it? The cynic in me would say, well, there's got to be an agenda because they would never say that really. But if they have a shred of one day they wake up and like, let me think scientifically again, rather than propagandizing and go, you know what? They haven't really conducted phase 3 trials. And even if they run them, it's going to be for such a short time, not against placebo. I don't think I would take it. Now, the question is, why would they speak out about it? That there are questions I have about that.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not. I mean, I don't know what the motives are, but it's interesting that we're on the same side on that issue. You know, another stupid thing that we're seeing is states trying to push people to get the flu vaccine.
Yeah.
To so that it'll help with COVID somehow. But the studies that we cited in the Truth About Vaccines, the most updated episode, is that, and this is in the article, 36% increase in coronavirus from people that were vaccinated for the flu. So it doesn't decrease your chance of coronavirus. It increases about 36%. And we got the study.
Right. Exactly, folks. This is why I want you to keep sharing the show and sharing the work that Ty and Charlene and others are doing to give you a perspective that is, not solely rooted in opinion. I mean, we all have, as all humans do, perspectives and opinions on things. But, Ty, you're just nailing it because you're resourcing this stuff, researching it and citing it and showing it right there. You can go look at it yourself. And the idea that the flu shot would protect you against the coronavirus, where does that come from? It's just wishful thinking on their part. So they're the ones that are operating on a wishful thinking and opinions, not scientific facts and bases that even have an actual hypothesis that can be validated or tested.
Yeah, and here's what's interesting is that those statistics on the flu, coronavirus, those come from a study that I think that the finding that coronavirus, the increase from coronavirus was 36%. I think that was like a peripheral finding. I don't think that's what they were primarily studying. I think they were trying to show that the flu shot's efficacious at the flu virus, which if you look at the top of the screenshot, you can see it shows, according to the study, that it lowers the incidence of flu virus. But then down at the bottom is coronavirus, and it shows a spike, 36% coronavirus. I think that was just something that maybe they let that slip because I don't think that was the purpose of the study, if I read it right.
It's way down the list, right? It wasn't a focal point, but it happens to be kind of like a side effect in a drug. It's like the effect that is not very marketable, so they kind of diminish it or speak really quickly over it. But if you pick it out, it's a valid part of the study unless they destroy their whole study at this point. But most people don't look at these studies. They just buy into whatever's being pronounced or promoted in mainstream media, what we call news propaganda, newspeak. So we're dealing in that era of absolute Aldous Huxley Brave New World scenarios where they want you to take the Soma. Of course, they give it to you in order to get the nasal swab, I think, which is absurd. And the RT-PCR test is interesting. I don't know if you saw this. I'll bring this up now. And Super Don, I don't even know if we have the link to it, but we've shied away from reporting on this whole human DNA chromosome 8. Have you heard about this? They're saying that the PCR test is testing, and it looks like that sequence that they're testing for is in chromosome 8 in all human DNA. And I'm like, you know what? Whether it is or isn't, and there's controversy there, Ty, I'm like, why would we even need to go there? If the test itself takes unknown genetic material, which it does, and then amplifies it hundreds of millions and billions to trillions of times, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that, to find what they claim is evidence of a unique novel virus, coronavirus, then it means by definition it is not even there in reality. Certainly not doing anything that could be causing harm to you, or else it would be in abundance, because the argument for viral infection, if that's a true argument, is that it gets in you, it steals your DNA or RNA and spews out zillions of replicant copies overwhelming your body. And if it takes PCR to find it, has been my point for years. My buddy John Rapport, we've been pointing this out. Nothing else matters. It's over. Done. The test has not been analyzed and standardized in any way, shape, or form to give it any meaning whatsoever, except what they say it is.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of the meme I've seen. It's like if you have to have a test to tell you that you're sick, are you really sick?
Yes.
Right. If you don't even know, if there's no symptoms, then you're not sick. It's ridiculous. It reminds me of a line in Moneyball where Brad Pitt goes, if he's such a good hitter, why didn't he hit good? And it's like, if the coronavirus is so bad, why can't we find it in people without blowing it up a trillion times?
Yeah. So this article by a Frank Visser, I don't know this guy. He talks about the corona conspiracy, part 15, the chromosome 8 bombshell evidence canard. And again, I don't know. I haven't analyzed this in great detail, but my point is whether it is real or not that there's human DNA sequences that match this exactly. The point is, if you amplify this test, run it enough cycles, everybody will test positive regardless of what they're claiming. And so the PCR test is not an appropriate technology to detect an acute infectious agent. much less a chronic one, because if you have to go to that extreme level of amplification to find it, it's either not there or it's there doing nothing because you can't find it. It needs a lot of it to do something that you claim it does. So that's my point of not falling prey to, oh, we found out this is the smoking gun, and then you end up being discredited because you jump on a smoking gun that really isn't smoking.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Did you see the story over the weekend about 77 NFL players testing positive for coronavirus, but then they realized that there was something wrong with the amplification in the test, and they were all 77 false positives? Did you see that?
I heard about it. I didn't read it in extensive, but it falls right in line with what we already know.
It's like they blew the sample up too many times, probably for all of them, and it found it in all of them because we all have it if you blow it up 10 trillion times.
Yeah, exactly. It's what we've said about HIV tests. If they don't dilute the blood before you take an HIV test, 100% of all humanity test positive because it's nonspecific, cross-reactive. It's just not an HIV test. And we're living in that era where they can call it a test and everybody believes it because they haven't done the homework. They haven't done what we've been studying on for decades now at this point, Ty. So if we look at the test, the best way to end this nonsense is to stop the testing, which is why I enthusiastically supported, even if Trump administration has pressured the CDC to back off on, oh, everybody needs to be tested. No, nobody needs to be tested. That's the reality. They haven't gone that far, but it's a step, and it's a step in the right direction.
It is. Yeah, it is. And it's, it's ridiculous really for people that have no symptoms at all to go get tested. Like, why? Hey, you need to go to the doctor. Why? I don't feel bad. Well, you just need to go, right? I mean, that's our mentality. It's like in the tests, there's so many, there's so few positives, in a whole, compared to the whole population, that it's almost like if you're shocked that someone's not carrying an umbrella on a day that there's only a 1% chance of storms. You're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm thinking specifically of masks. I mean, I'm all over the place here, but with masks, it's like, why aren't you wearing a mask? It's like saying, hey, why aren't you carrying an umbrella and there's not a cloud in the sky, but there's a 1% chance that you might get a shower later. It's about the same mentality. I used it a couple of days ago. I went to a store and somebody said, why aren't you wearing a mask? I said, well, why aren't you carrying an umbrella? And they said, what? And I said, well, my chance of getting coronavirus is about what yours is of getting rained on indoors. And so I just had it.
I love it.
But then yesterday I was a lot more kind. I'm down here in Dallas area, and it's amazing how many masks there are, dude. It makes Tennessee or Nashville look not quite so over the top. I mean, I was literally the only person in the grocery store without a mask, and it was so shocking to the attendant that she said, "You're the first person all day that I've seen without a mask." She told me that.
Yeah.
And she said, "Why aren't you wearing a mask?"
I was out in a retail establishment the other day. I can't remember which at this point, and I saw a couple that were looking at some items, and I think it was probably a health food store, but a lot of people are masking even in health food stores. They weren't. And I engaged them in conversation. I talked about what they were looking at. It was like just to engage on a human level and have other people see it. It's like I genuinely was appreciative of these people that were not living in fear, that I wanted to come over there. I want to give them a big hug, but I was just chatting with them, and it was that kind of an unusual scenario, even in places where you think they wouldn't have fallen for it.
Yeah. And isn't it bizarre that we are talking in 2020 about how refreshing it is to see a couple people that are in the store that aren't wearing masks? Mm-hmm. Who would have ever thought that we would have had a conversation that's encouraging to us to see a couple people without a mask?
The bar is set so low in 2020 for human interaction. But what was great about the event, and I want to shout out Del Bigtree and Cordy, Dr. Cordy, and Robin Openshaw and others that helped to put it on and came to it, supported it. 2,000 people plus, families, young children and strollers, babies, parents, grandparents, just no mask, not a mask in sight. The only mask I saw was like a reporter doing some videography wearing a mask. That was it. Everybody was there enjoying the company, cheering, embracing, hugging. And, I just want to say, as I do every day on the show, please, more of that. More of that. Can we have more of that?
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd forgotten that you had that event, and so it was very well attended, huh?
Yeah, it was like 3 weeks earlier. We had like 250 people at a smaller one, and the same people plus some then put it on, and about over 10 times more showed up. And Dell rocked it. We had just a great turnout, And did I send it to you? I'll send you the link. I think I might have sent it to Charlene. Let me know what you think. I just was letting spirit flow, but I wanted to dismantle the test before everybody's eyes and ears in that moment so they could stop the nonsense.
Yeah, send it to me. I haven't seen it.
Okay. I'll drop it into Skype for you, the link. And we also got it back up on Brighteon too, but it's also still on Facebook and YouTube, believe it or not. So I'll send you one of the links, or Super Don, if you could drop it in for Ty, that would be amazing. So are there going to be, like at this event you're at in Dallas, are there going to be like roundtable discussions, or is it more of a lecture hall scenario? I'm sure there's got to be brainstorming going on.
Yeah, it's a lot of brainstorming for a couple of days. And then, as you mentioned, Friday night, you're going to have Casey on Friday. There's a doctor's roundtable Friday night. Not necessarily for any of the people that are here. Casey just happens to be here, and we're going to be here. But it's people that are logging on virtually, different medical, doctors virtually for the roundtable. And it's on COVID specifically. Try to encourage people that there are options. It's not a death sentence.
Okay.
There's a lot of fear mongering going on with COVID, of course, and there's a lot of elderly people that are afraid that really shouldn't be.
Yeah, and I know there are a lot of strategies and paths out of this nonsense. I just happened to my presentation say, you know what? If I dismantle the tests, where do they go? What do they do now? No tests, no COVID. Then you address people where they are. What are their health challenges? Address them. The same thing we do with everything. But, of course, they need to have a label. They need to have a virus, even if they don't have a test for it. Folks, we're going to take a break here, going outside the box with Ty Bollinger. He is live in Dallas today. And we're going to scour the comment section, questions if you have them. And Super Don, if you can get that going, and we'll be back after this. I want to say thanks to everybody that participated in the Key Technology webinar yesterday. And if you have any questions about that, let me know. We'll say thanks to Synergy Science, and we'll be right back.
Today, we live in an omnipresent cloud of charged particles emitted by electronic devices, electromagnetic fields, WLAN, and radio waves. These particles penetrate our bodies and heat the water in our body tissues. Recent scientific studies have shown that this particle flux not only heats the cells in our bodies as if we were in a microwave oven, but damages them as well. At Key Technologies, we want to protect you from the negative effects of such particles, so we have developed the Key Home Cell and other products. The Key Home Cell creates a protective field that works like a filter, intercepting any dangerous particles before they can enter your body. Here we have a partial look at the inner workings of the Key Home Cell. The Key Home Cell generates a charge exchange between the water tubes, thereby discharging free electrons and releasing them into the room. Within 24 hours, the Key Home Cell creates a torus field. The free electrons formed in the torus use their negative charge to bind to the positively charged harmful particles, thereby rendering them harmless to you. The torus field has an effective range of 16.4 feet above and below, and 24.6 feet around the device. The torus field created by the Key Home Cell is transmitted and provides you with protection through the walls of your home. Not only humans and animals are shielded from harmful radiation, but plants and food too. Whether mobile radio waves or WLAN, any particles that come within the torus field can no longer cause any harm to you or your family. The Key Home Cell provides you with all-around protection, allowing you to communicate with absolute peace of mind when using your cell phone or any other electronic devices. The Key Home Cell's free electrons are transmitted into the water through the torus field and repairing the water structure that was destroyed by radiation particles. Water regains its ideal vibrating hexagonal grid structure. The difference is easy to taste and can be proven with laboratory testing. This type of perfect hexagonal water structure is found in fresh spring and healing water and has also been seen in snowflakes. The same effect happens with our food, which also contains water. The Key Home Cell greatly reduces radiation exposure from cell phones, laptops, WLAN transmitters, mobile terminals, and other sources of radiation. The Key Home Cell drastically reduces the thermal stress on your body tissue. It is very fast and very easy. With the Key Home Cell, you will experience a new quality of well-being within your home and more life energy without any unhealthy exposure to radiation.
All right, come on over to robertscottbell.com, the place for health, freedom, healing, liberty. You'll see links to Ty Bollinger, Ty and Charlene, and Truth About Cancer, Truth About Vaccines, all the things that we can do to help contribute to outreach and empowerment with information. We'll get into some facial recognition discussion. I think it's funny and ironic that in the era of facial recognition, the technology is failing to recognize faces. That's maybe a good side benefit of masking, But that's the reason why they didn't want you to wear masks coming into a bank in the past, and now you can't go in without them. But I like the gun store signs that say, don't even think about coming into the store with a mask on. We'll assume you're here for no good. That, I'm thinking if you're wearing a mask, don't go into a gun store. That's not a good plan for survivability. And by the way, you'll see when I send you this lecture, if Super Don hasn't, that I did, I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment, and I didn't utter the word firearm, Second Amendment, gun, or anything, and you'll see why. I didn't have to. Well, you'll catch it.
Man.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. Hey, is it rude to eat while I'm on the air?
Well, Super Don would be yelling at me if I did it, but you're bigger than even him, so I think you're okay. You'll get by.
He doesn't know where I'm at right now, so I'm in this undisclosed location right now.
Right? So you can't find him, Super D. So, okay. Our guest can chew on some hopefully organic cheese or something good like that.
It is organic. Yep.
Yes. Nothing But Truth asks, who was the researcher who found this so-called virus? Where do we find that? And, this is an interesting question because, if they don't have a test for the virus, then you can ask genuinely, hey, is there one unique virus? Then there is evidence of what they call gain-of-function experimentation on viral proteins or whatever this is, done at the UNC Chapel Hill. Fauci was over it in charge, and then they got a ban on this kind of research, and they exported it and sent money, guess what, to a lab in Wuhan, where they continued on with it. So there is some trackability that they were monkeying with something, but is it one person? Is it 5? Is it 10? How many people, how many researchers were working on altering and maybe weaponizing these proteins?
Sorry, Robert. If you wanted a response there, I was kind of daydreaming. I was watching a plane fly out here, and
that's
sorry
so
about that.
Exciting that TMB's eating and daydreaming while we're on the air together.
Sorry, I'm high up in a hotel, and there's a plane that's real close over here, so I was.
After the show today, I'm going to look in a mirror like Stuart Smalley and say I'm good enough. Darn it, people like me.
You are good enough, Robert, and people do like you. So you just remember that.
It's fortunate that you weren't wearing your muscle T-shirt today, because I was thinking if you wore it, I was going to put mine on mid-show just to show you up with the muscles that I have now that I'm working out.
That's funny. Yeah, now I'm just in my conference uniform here. Everyone's required to wear a Texas shirt.
Okay, Super Don, what did you just posted that somebody's laid claim to the isolation of this virus? What is that?
Yeah, I'm not going to attempt to try and pronounce the name here, but apparently it was a doctor in China that was the first person to report the COVID-19 to local authorities.
Dr. Zhang Jixian, 54 years of age.
Didn't he die?
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't he? Wasn't he the one?
No, I think that's a different person. That was the whistleblower guy.
Okay. Okay.
That was one of the first people to warn authorities.
Yeah.
About SARS-like illness, and then he ended up dying from it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I see another question. This is from our friend Pat. She says, RSB and Super D and TMB. If I take a supplement 2 to 3 times a day with food, how does that work with intermittent fasting? I take Omega XL, which I think that's a Larry King promoted fish oil, which seems to be working for pain when other things have failed. Well, if you're taking it with food, the food is the intermittent. Well, you're intermittent and you eat. So you're taking it with food. So I don't think it impacts what you're doing if you're eating and fasting in between. Maybe I'm missing something here on this question.
Well, yeah. The way I took it was that let's say you are normally eating 2 to 3 times a day, and you're taking it with the food. If you are going to then say, now I want to do some intermittent fasting, how would you take it? I'm assuming maybe you're supposed to take it with food or something. So would there be a problem with intermittent fasting and taking that without food?
TMB, you hear what I hear? I mean, I'm translating here.
I'm not really sure what the question is, but I mean, if you're taking it with food, then it doesn't affect intermittent fasting because you're already eating.
Exactly.
I always take my supplements first thing in the morning. As soon as I wake up, I just lay them all out and take them, even though I don't eat for another several hours.
Yeah, so but you defer as well, like we do, to food as supplements, right? So it's not like you're using synthetic isolates that.
No, it's all whole food stuff,
right?
But
is there a problem with taking fish oil without food?
It is.
You know, I don't think there would be. I've never had any issues with it. I take it every day.
Well, let's say you wanted to just take the fish oil and not would that mess up your intermittent fasting if you took?
I see. Maybe that's the question. If that's the question, I mean, what you want to do is you want to intake no calories during the time that you're intermittent fasting, or I mean, it's low of calories as you can. I mean, 5 calories, 10 calories, probably not going to kill it, but you want to stay really, really low on calories. Like there's maybe 1 calorie in a cup of coffee, right? Isn't there about a calorie? Or a cup of tea? Well, the calories will actually add up. So, I mean, if you're doing that, no sugar, whatever, you're good. But you don't want any food calories during that intermittent fast. So, like for me personally, except when I'm traveling, which is very hard to keep up with intermittent fast because you never know when you can eat. But at home, I'll go from like 7:30 at night is when we'll eat our last meal, and then I won't eat until 1:30 the next day. So that whole time, I'll drink hot tea and water. That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. Once you get your system back in line, you mineralize it, etc. You can do things you think are impossible to do, because in my sordid medical history, I couldn't go an hour or two without eating back in the day. So I know what it's like to be hypoglycemic and hungry all the time, no matter what. And to get to the point now where I can go, it's like fasting is not even a big deal. It's like normally you have to plan to fast. I'm like, no, if I start now, I'm fine. Didn't even plan for it, right? Yeah. And so your body it can roll with that and can adapt to it because you're minerally rich enough to deal with and isolate or remove, if you will, the stored energy, which you couldn't address when you were minerally deficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what we do now is so different than what I did 20 plus years ago when I was a competitive bodybuilder. So back in the day when I was competing, I mean, I ate all the time, because we thought that was best. You needed 8 small meals a day or whatever. And I mean, I literally ate almost every 2 hours. God knows how many calories I consumed, but that was,
believe it or not, that was the even the scientific nutritional thought form of what you need to do to be. Yeah, exactly. So it's funny.
It's so much different now what we know than then.
Yeah.
Because now it's not, like you said, not abnormal to go 18 hours without eating and then eat a couple of meals during the day. And I used to think, never skip breakfast. Well, actually, I think skipping breakfast is probably one of the healthiest things that you could do. Assuming that you're eating clean foods outside of that window. I mean, I personally don't. I haven't eaten breakfast in years, and I don't miss it. It's just kind of normal.
It was interesting today of all days. I mean, it was an intense weekend last weekend with the guests we had, the big event, and all the things that were surrounding it. And I could feel physically it took a toll on me. There was emotional exhaustion and everything. Not so much I was still going to work out and do everything, but I could feel my body was telling me, it's like, dude, you've been through a lot this weekend. It was pretty intense. And feel like I'm coming out. But this morning, for the first time in I don't know how many months, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make myself, I have some artisan organic bread that's made by a local baker, and have, the pastured eggs. And I'm like, you know what? I want some eggs and toast and all the goodies on it. And I did that. I'm like, okay, my body said you wanted it. I've been working out hard, and it's like, you need it. And I've been like cleansing a lot, and so it's one of those things that I'm not dogmatic about it, but I'm with you, Ty. If my body doesn't need it, I don't need it. If I woke up today and it said, after my workout, get home, it's like, you know what? You want that. Yeah, I want it. I'm having it. I'm fine. So the point is, always listen to your body. But when our bodies are so corrupted as they were, as yours was, as mine was, the messaging, the signaling is all off. And by replenishing and detoxing, you get to the point where that communication is clear and it actually has meaning, and you know what that meaning is, and you abide by it. And wow, what a difference.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Maybe I take back a little bit. Maybe that's not the best thing for everybody to skip breakfast. I think the best thing for everybody across the board is to have some period of intermittent fasting. That's the key. Not that you skip breakfast. Because maybe you get up and you've got to have something to eat when you wake up to get going. I get that. I used to be that way. I'm not anymore. But I used to do that. But if you eat breakfast at 8 in the morning, and then you snack a little bit during the day, or maybe you have a small lunch, but then for dinner you eat 6 o'clock or whatever. I think the key then is don't eat again until 8 the next morning. Maybe you can't skip meals. You're just that type of person, but you have that 12, 14 hour, preferably longer period of intermittent fasting. In other words, late at night, let's say, don't go snack at 10 o'clock or 10:30 before you go to bed.
Right.
But if you eat at 6, make that the last time you eat any food until the next morning, and stop the late night snacking. And that will then, by definition, result in an intermittent period of fasting for you.
A lot of the times when we're up that late, And maybe I know there are some night owls that are very artistic and they somehow they just, things go on then. But, there were times in the past where I was like, I can't get to sleep. I'm staying up till midnight or later. I'm like, why is that? And now, of course, I'm back in a very intense fitness routine where our bodies, and I've argued, are designed to be used every day, not like we use them sitting at a keyboard, for instance. And so by the end of the day, I'm like, I can get into the couch and think, I'll watch a show with my wife. And I'm like, she complains because she can never watch any show that we both watch because I fall asleep. I'm done. And I'm not chronically fatigued. I'm just like, dude, I worked my butt off today and my body's ready to go. And it's like, that's a good thing. Not being able to go to bed, that's not such a good thing is the point.
Yeah. It is a good thing to be so tired physically that you're exhausted and you sleep. I mean, I think that's kind of the way we should be most of the time. You should be exercising. I think there's so much insomnia now and sleeplessness and difficulty sleeping because people don't do anything anymore.
You're right.
They sit all day and they don't exercise, they don't move, and then they're like, okay, now I'm supposed to stay in the same position I've been in all day and just close my eyes and go out for 8 hours. And it's like, I haven't done anything. And I'm not saying everybody that has sleep problems doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think a lot of people have sleep problems because they don't work.
Get your workout on, folks, however you do it. And of course, getting out in the garden's been so great. And I mentioned this in the first hour, TMB, man, I wish you were here to enjoy with me the harvest of watermelon. I harvested my first one, and I didn't know. I wasn't sure when to pick it. My buddy, Dr. Robbie, says, hey, thump on it. And I was like, oh, I know how to do that. And I did, cut it, juiciest, sweetest. It had seeds in it. I was eating the seeds. I didn't care. It was awesome. And I've still got more to come. So I'm very excited about that part of the activity every day to go out. It's like if it's the evening, whenever it is to get out, I can't wait to get out there and just check on it. And you're really connected to it. It's a whole different thing. And, barefoot in the garden. I love it. And so
that's awesome. Yeah. And I don't care what anybody else says. If you haven't had a garden, you haven't picked your own vegetables or fruits or whatever, you just can't experience it. If it comes out of your garden and it remotely tastes good, it's the best thing you've ever had. Because it just tastes better when you grow it.
You know what? My wife said yesterday, because we cut some Swiss chard. Swiss chard is doing great. I mean, we can cut it partially and it grows back and it keeps giving. And we do this with the kale as well. But the Swiss chard, she's like, we picked a bunch. She cooked it up. It was so amazing. And she said, you know what? If I had gone to the health food store and bought organic Swiss chard, the amount we just used, it would have cost us $15. When I say planting and growing your own food is like printing money, not kidding. We've got a lot of stuff that we've been now freeze drying as well. So we have some food storage of our own that we've grown. It's just amazing what can be done. And I had no idea this is all part of the transition that I think, most of us are waking up going, we need to be thinking about these things.
Yeah, it just feels better, doesn't it, when you can grow it yourself? And it tastes better too. I mean, I think it does. We have blackberries and blueberries that just grow naturally on our property, and the girls were out picking blackberries and blueberries and brought me some the other day, and I was like, man, these are so sweet. And I think it's half because they're really good, and half because it's like they just grow naturally. You just go pick them. It's just fun. Like when I was growing up, we outside of Dallas, that we had a peach tree that had white meat peaches, which I love white meat peaches to this day.
Yeah.
But it was very, very fertile. And every year we'd get, 5, 6, 7 dozen peaches on it that grew and were ripened. And I just never forget riding by on my bicycle through our front lawn and grabbing a peach with my right hand while I drove it with my left, and then eating the peach riding down the street on my bike. It's like, those are memories that you just can't get by playing a video game.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say this. There's this one show on Netflix called Rust Valley Restorers. I like these car shows. I like because you see the development, what happens, and they're doing. And these are folksy Canadian guys, really hilarious, unintentionally. They're just funny. And they were driving up to find an old car, and he was like reaching out to grab apples as he went by. It's just. And I still fell asleep during that show last night. My wife was complaining. I was like, God, come on.
You like working out so hard.
Doesn't matter.
Quit training so hard, man. Quit training so hard.
Oh, man. You know what? I love it. I know you like to work out too. And it's just been fun. And by the way, my trainer and her husband came to the big event that we did, the protest rally for freedom. And the next day pulled their kids out of public school. Because their kids were their kids were so disgusted with the masks. They said, we're done. And then I think, again, the message is getting out. We're seeing more protests, more people standing up. I've seen some messages here about people are getting together in groups on purpose to go en masse shopping together without masks. So this is what we needed to see and have happen. And as people realize the phoniness of all of this and all-cause mortality being down, on and on it goes, you begin to say, man, we're played from the beginning, and they're still playing us, even though there's evidence of direction going in a positive way. The vulnerability we have, if we don't see through this and really understand it and be willing to stand up for it, we could fall backwards in the fall when they claim, oh, it's back, second wave, right? Then I know they're going to play that propaganda card pretty hard.
They are. I mean, I'm so glad that you're with groups of people that are standing up against the mask, because it's this slippery slope. So it's just a mask, right? It's only a yellow star, Mr. Jew, World War II. It's just a yellow star. Just quit complaining and wear it. So it's only the mask until the mask isn't enough. And then it's only the vaccine, the vaccine's not all that effective. We got to track who's been vaccinated. So let's microchip you. It's only a microchip. And there's the slippery slope that we're going down. So people don't understand what a slippery slope it is. They better stand up for what we've got before it's gone. Right. And so you got to stand up to this nonsense, because the mask mandate is complete and utter nonsense.
Yeah. So folks, stop complying with unconstitutional mandates and prohibitions. Recognize that your orders come from God, not government, and get connected to that through prayer, meditation, whatever you use to stay and get connected or reconnected to the voice of Spirit to direct you, so that you are not directed into boxcars wearing yellow stars of any kind. And that's where we have some side benefits of the COVID crazy. One was they delayed implementation of Real ID for another year, but at the same time, who wants to fly anyway when they basically give you anal probes and permanent masking just to get on a plane? They're destroying, the industry is destroying itself by cooperating in this way. We're getting crazier and crazier. The other thing is facial recognition technology is utterly failing with mask wearing. So they're going to have to back off on it just for that if they want to track everybody through digital technology and millimeter wave 5G, fifth generation Wi-Fi, etc. So there's some good things happening. People are waking up as they get a little more uncomfortable, a little less comfortable with what's happening. Some people jump out of the boiling water before it boils. Not everybody stays in.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that we drove from Nashville. We won't fly because everybody's got the mask mandate now, and they're even escorting entire families off. Because do you see that story about a 2-year-old wouldn't wear a mask? They took all 8 people of the family off the plane.
Yeah,
because it's insane.
We
won't be masked, so we won't. That's why we drove instead of flying. We're not going to fly, and the airlines are going under.
Oh, they're destroying themselves. If they had any sense of survivorship, whatever it is, that we need to preserve our company, right? It's not good right now. Then you would go, you know what? We're the airline that allows anybody on. You don't have to mask. We want the freedom, and we know that a lot of people are not afraid. We know this is bunk. That would be the first airline. I would buy a ticket just to say thank you. That's the thing. There are a lot of us out there.
That airline would have every flight jam-packed full for the foreseeable future if they did.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what needs to happen by one of the airlines. Of course, too bad the CEOs are probably not listening to our show.
No, they're probably in on the global takeover, New World Order stuff if they get to that level. Folks, we got another interesting story here. Let me bring this up. Elmo is not going to be happy, nor is the Surgeon General, but apparently using an unsleeved elbow to cover your mouth when you cough is less effective at stopping the spread of you-know-what than using your hand. Now, who doesn't figure this out? We talked about elbow sneezes. Have you ever tried to sneeze into your elbow? You can't really fully cup it. Now, if you sneeze in your hand, you've got some ability to retain some of the debris. Now, we recognize that which is aerosolized is not going to be stopped, whether you're wearing a mask or your hand. But the whole elbow sneeze is nonsense.
I'm laughing, Robert, because years ago I saw one of those little blooper GIF videos of somebody doing the elbow sneeze, and just snot went all over the top of their arm. And it just showed that, it's not stopping anything, but it's pretty gross. Sorry. But anyway, that's why I'm laughing. I remember that.
You remember that? Yeah.
It was back in about the same day of, you remember that Smart Beep commercial from in the late 1990s where this guy and this girl are on a date, and he goes to pick her up at the front, and this is for a beeper. Back when we had beepers, this will date the commercial. He picks her up from the front door. They go to the car. He opens her door for her, gets her in her passenger seat. Then he's going around the car, so she's the only one in the car, and she farts really loud. And then then and anybody that was working in business during the late 90s will remember this commercial because it was like the first quote viral commercial.
Yeah.
So then he gets in the car and she goes, woo, and he goes, oh wow, I feel like there's some chemistry in the car. Did you feel the chemistry? And then she realizes there's two people in the back seat.
She didn't see
and
it.
And one of them says, I felt it. And
I remember that.
But anyway, it was the first like viral commercial. But anyway, sorry to go down that rabbit hole with you.
Listen, if we don't have one fart joke during the Robert Scott Bell Show, we've not done our job. Okay, so way to hold it up, right?
Sorry.
We have a question coming in from So Grateful. Sincere thanks for all that you share. You make this world a better place. One small question: where does Ty Bollinger Post share the papers he and his wife write? Thank you. So, see, Super Don, there's some people that don't know Ty Bollinger. That's just not right. That's why we help. That's why we do what we can do. Look, if you go to the website, robertscottbell.com right now, to So Grateful, this is to you. I'm going to show everybody. You'll see the article it's the first article in hour 2 that goes right. If you click on it, you'll be taken right to the page, thetruthaboutcancer.com. And so for the one or two people that don't know about thetruthaboutcancer.com, you go there and then you can sign up for email alerts, just like you do at robertscottbell.com. And you'll always be, rewarded with information like, hey, there's a new article, or you can just visit thetruthaboutcancer.com. We have it linked up right now in today's show notes, as we always do. And so to me, that's really great. That means we're expanding our reach into new audiences, Ty, that haven't been exposed to this because of what's happening. People are going, you know what? I need to reach out to new sources of information. And so this is a good sign, not a bad sign.
Yeah, it's a real good sign. And isn't it amazing the way that the mainstream media is so compromised? I mean, they literally, you can't get real news anymore. So I'm glad that we've got, our audience is expanding, Robert Scott Bell Show audience expanding, because people are looking for the real news. Because I think every day, tens of thousands of people, maybe millions of people a day are going, what is up with the media? These guys are sellouts. These girls are sellouts. They are nothing but teleprompter reading bobbleheads.
Right.
And we don't believe it, what they say anymore. We don't believe anything that we hear on the news anymore. It's all lies.
See, speaking of bobbleheads, we want a Ty Bollinger bobblehead. Do you have one of those?
You know what? If I did get a Ty Bollinger bobblehead, which like probably 4 or 5 people would want, which would be my family, and maybe maybe
I want one. Absolutely.
You can make fun of it on the air. I would want it to be on this shirt, because this looks kind of like a bobblehead shirt, doesn't it?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Of this, and then the head would just do this thing on.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be a lot of people out of work if this coronavirus nonsense continues. Maybe there'll be more bobblehead makers just to get by, and we'll buy one of Ty Bollinger.
I can see bobblehead being a really big business.
The bobblehead business is booming. All right. One last, and this is brief because UK Health Radio buddies have got to drop out in a moment, but the pandemic threatens how we naturally grow and benefit from relationships. I think this is another aspect. You're meeting with religious leaders, Ty. And it's not just relationships to each other, which is big, but the relationship to God. I think that as people start seeing through the scamdemic, they might, their worldview is shaken because they thought these institutions would have their back. But no, they don't. And we've got to look deeper into a relationship with which is immutable, unchangeable, our spiritual relationships. And I think that they could be strengthened in this time if we do this right.
Absolutely. They could be. And I think a lot of people are becoming closer to God during this time and looking to the Lord and realizing it's a mess down here. We need supernatural intervention. And, that's what will give you peace anyway. Yeah. And so that's why we're here. And, I know that not everybody in this movement shares that same perspective, but that's our perspective. Mm-hmm. Is that it's a spiritual issue, and that's the key to success, regardless of what it looks like here.
Yeah. Well, I think that the opportunity for spiritual growth happens oftentimes in the most difficult circumstances, because then we remember, oh yeah, I should have been focusing on that. And you'll see in the lecture, you've heard me say it, like the 10 Commandments, they had that special little asterisk at the bottom. It says, break tablets and ignore everything you just read in case of emergency, right? Which is the opposite of what should be happening. In an emergency, that's where you should go back. And that's what I'm hoping people are doing. TMB, my brother, love you. Please, hugs and love to Charlene and the whole family there. And Casey, when you see him, we're looking forward to having him on Friday. And if you'll just let them know what they need to know before we got to go.
Remember that the power to heal is yours.
Back in a moment.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
Scott Bell Show.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
Robert Scott Bell Show.
Living Fuel. Upgrade your meal today. Imagine if you had a single meal which contained more protein than a half-dozen organic egg whites, more fiber than 2 bowls of steel-cut organic oatmeal, more vitamin D than 10 fillets of Arctic fish, more vitamin B12 than 50 servings of raw organic cheese, more vitamin E than 1 pound of raw organic almonds, more calcium than 2 glasses of whole organic milk, more potassium than 2 organic bananas, more phytonutrients than 10 fresh organic green salads, more antioxidants than 10 bowls of fresh vine-ripe organic berries, more omega-3 than 2 cups of organic edamame, more resveratrol than 4 glasses of wine, more probiotics than 6 cups of yogurt, more enzymes than 3 whole organic papayas, more vitamin C than 7 oranges. That would cost $268.13 per meal and equal to 14,124 calories. Imagine all that nutrition in a single super meal you can afford. Now, you don't have to imagine anymore. Living Fuel, the super meal you can drink. Upgrade your meal today.
All right, bonus time. It's back. The Robert Scott Bell Show, extra innings, whatever you call it here. Let's see if Super Don's still in the mix. Yes, and Super Don, I brought a treat for you if you want.
A treat for me.
A treat for you. I don't know if it'll fit through the camera, but pull it out. It's a little large, but here we go. This is the beauty. Check it out.
Oh, my
Isn't
goodness.
that gorgeous?
It's a watermelon.
It's beautiful, and it's so delicious and sweet and juicy. Now, when I opened it up, you see at the bottom, it's got a little bit of the, it's a little lighter. You know, and normally if I get a watermelon, obviously you want it to be deep and red and, I've seen redder ones, but good Lord, I've not had a sweeter one. Certainly, maybe it's sweeter because I grew it. But even the transition into the rind where you get a little bit salty is sweeter just because I grew it. I'm so happy. And this is 3.5 pounds. The whole thing was 7 pounds. It's not that big, but it was so dense with water and everything. So, yeah, I'm going to have some of that after the show. So I wanted to brag on my watermelon. As we talk about melons, everybody goes, melons. I can't believe you're talking about melons. That's so offensive,
No.
Robert.
I'm sorry. I have to unsubscribe from your YouTube channel.
What am I going to tell my kids? To grow their own watermelons. That's what you're going to tell the kids. So what do you got going on? You got any garden pictures coming from anybody?
Yeah, actually, Janet Marsh wrote in with some pictures from her garden.
Okay.
And let's see here. She said, I planted my garden before we decided to travel for 3 weeks. I was afraid either the garden would die or I'd miss the harvest, but all is good. And so we've got, this is a good piece of land to work with here.
Wow. Looks like Southland, wooded land. Got some pines there. Wow, nice. Look at all that firewood. She's ready.
Yep. And then we got
look, a little raised beds, and she's got the tomatoes, it looks like, or are those peppers? Those are looking good. Wow.
Yep. And there. Yeah, that's a whole lot there. So let's see. She's got main garden, need to pick tomatoes, herb garden.
Mm-hmm.
how do you pronounce this? Mullein?
Mullein, yeah.
Mullein?
That's a
And
good
grapes
remedy.
and berries.
Good herbal
And
remedy.
raspberries. Yeah.
And raspberries, yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Very looking gardener.
Thank you for sharing that. Do we have any others? I love them. Keep sending them, y'all. It's harvest time
That's
almost.
what I've got for today.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right.
So let's see here. We had some chatting going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was Ronnie, Alive with Hemp. And she actually mentioned something about how she was suffering from loss of taste and smell. And I responded to her directly because you and I were talking about it on the break, and you were talking about continuing to use the silver in the sinuses.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that will help
eventually it'll
with
come
that.
back. I mean, this is something that's been common in the era of COVID. But the thing is, the irony. Let me tell you something. I went last night. My daughter. All right, story time on the Robert Scott Bell Show. Y'all ready?
Cool.
Okay. So last night, my daughter was struggling. She's doing algebra. She did algebra half. She does algebra 1 this year. And she's she doesn't love math, but she did really well last year, and now she's stepping it up, a different teacher, and she's struggling with these word problems that you convert. You know, what do these words mean, right? How do you interpret them? And she got really frustrated, and she'll sometimes end up in tears because she, obviously she wants to get her work done, and she's like, I'm not getting it. So I said, all right, let's go take a walk. Let's go outside and take a walk. Now, my wife had given a donation to a local community for like a flag, something to do with the flag. I don't know. It's a fundraiser of some kind. So the local neighborhood, they have a bishop that lives in the neighborhood where we are. Really nice man, nice family. And so my son wants to come. We walk down the road, and he's outside with his son and his wife, and they're doing stuff. And so I hand him that, and Elijah gives him a big hug because my son's the hugger of the world. He's awesome. And so we start talking about just general stuff, right? Catching up. I told him about the big event we had last weekend. I sent him the link to the talk that I gave. And then he also mentions that his wife or his daughter was suffering with Crohn's. I'm not mentioning any names, so nobody's being revealed here. And we started talking about, because they had prayed on it, and my name or face came up and said, maybe we should talk to Robert about this, because they're all medical in the way they've treated Crohn's, which is the road to colostomy bags is paved with antibiotics and prednisone, right? That whole concept. If you go down medical route, that's what happens eventually. And so we talked a little bit about that, and then I got to the point where he's an engineer, and I said, you know what? Hey, do you think you can help my daughter with her math algebra stuff? She's really struggling on this. And I'm like, I know some basics, but I just was not able. My wife was like, it's a little rough. Even my son was going, it's not getting through. And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Let me just grab something to eat. I'll come right over. And he came over and worked with her for like an hour. And got her through these, really a struggle of something that just wasn't clicking, and it finally was clicking. It was like, what was this story about? Well, there's a lot of layers to this story, and I haven't told it, so I'm just telling it kind of off the cuff here. I didn't have a plan for it. But here you have a family coming together in prayer, going, what do we do for our daughter? She's struggling. And one of the things that comes up is, hey, maybe we should talk to Robert. He's our neighbor right down the road. And they kind of knew I was a little, holistic, and I haven't talked to them about it. And then we have a need. My daughter's struggling with math. We go there, give her the exchange. We're doing a donation. He's the local bishop, so, give him that for that. That's where it needs to go anyway. Don't send it in the mail. Just hand it to him. And my wife complained because we can only get singles, right? When I tried to get change, nobody's got 5s, 10s, or 20s anymore. That's another story as well. So it's this thick wad of singles. And then suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, what did Spirit orchestrate here? A beautiful exchange of somebody that could help us in this way. And I'm always open to helping people in need. And in the time of Corona, we got to talk about Corona Crazy. I talked to his wife about the tests, right? So you don't have to be afraid because the tests aren't even, saying what they're saying. So on and on it goes in just the willingness to outreach through prayer, through spiritual revelation, whatever it is, you get guidance and look at how life can be orchestrated. And you might think the needs are meager, like I have a daughter that needed help with math. But my gosh, it's important to her. It's devastating to her if she can't get it. So these things are important in the big scheme of things too. even if they seem little at the time. And look how it is if we get out of our bubbles and we reach out to folks. You never know that they were reaching out to you and you had no idea because you're like, no, I can't ask them for help. That would be, I don't want to impose. Yet at the same time, they were wanting to interact with you, and the opportunity of an exchange just happened spiritually on another level that you might not mentally have considered. So there's my story of the day. I hope everybody likes it. I didn't plan it, so it's not a beginning, middle, and end. It's just an ongoing how you can build relationships and reach out in the time of corona crazy and fear mongering.
Okay. Good story.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much. Since we're doing the Elvis stuff today, right? Let's see. Pat has a question. Murdoch says, what's Pat's question? Let me go up. Pat says, what's the matter you? I love melons. Yeah, of course, Pat, you do. Why wouldn't you? I don't see. Where's Pat's question? Did you see my question at the first hour break? Is that the one we answered?
Yeah, we answered that. You must have stepped away
Pat,
or something like that.
Don't be stepping away from the show. If you ask a question, we can answer it at any time. Now you have to rewind the show. I'm not answering it again. You find it.
Stop it, Pat. It's okay. So basically, your question was if you take the Omega XL supplement, which is like a fatty acid, how does that work with intermittent fasting? The conclusion that we came to, because Ty was involved in that too.
I said don't answer her. What are you doing?
Is that Pat likes me, so I'm going to do it. If you're taking it with food, I guess, I'm just thinking that if you're intermittent fasting, because some people commented on it actually in the chat room, and they're like that if it engages your digestive system, then you're no longer fasting, right?
Well, and Ty talked about in terms of caloric intake, because if it's a water fast, you're not necessarily taking calories in, but you are taking water in.
She takes it with food. So I guess the question, Pat, is this a thing where it's like you eat throughout the day, like the standard 3 meals a day, and then you take your Omega XL? That, are you then saying that you now want to change that up to where you are not going to be eating those meals during the day, and you're worried about not getting your Omega XL? That's the impression I got with it. So, but Robert, you said you understood it differently, where it's like, well, if you're taking it with food, then I don't understand.
I was like, Pat, how do you ask a question that nobody knows what the heck you're asking?
I don't know why we're having a disconnect here. I take my Omega XL and I take it with food. Now, if you're going to intermittent fast, that means now if you take the food away, how do you take your Omega XL? Right.
Now technically, yes. If you're taking the letter of the fasting law, if you're putting in anything with calories, it's food, and fish oil is food. Then you're sort of breaking the intermittent fast. But listen, don't overwhelm yourself. If it's helping you tremendously to deal with inflammation, I would defer with taking it, even if it's totally, it's not 100%. Now you're 99.9% intermittent, right?
Now you're looking at it as like the Sith Lord of intermittent fasting. It's all or nothing, right?
Don't obsess over it. So if you need it, take it, even if you're fasting.
Here's the question: can you take it without food? It probably says that you should take it.
You can. I mean, obviously, if it's a toxic, rancid fish oil, no. But if you got a good quality one.
The suggestion Ty had, which I think is a good one, that if you want to get the benefits of intermittent fasting, you can change when you fast. And his recommendation, I thought, was a good one, that if you have your dinner at 6 o'clock at night and you don't eat again until the next day at 8 in the morning, that's actually kind of an easy way of intermittent fasting, because you're sleeping through a large part of that, right?
Yeah.
So you aren't like through the day
extending the time before you engage again.
Fasting. Then that would probably eliminate the problem. Then that you would be able to take it during the day. With your food, and then you just start your intermittent fasting at 6 o'clock at night.
Right. Well done. Critical Inception says, I was diagnosed with Crohn's in 2009. By 2011, I had 3 surgeries, including an ileostomy for 3 months before they reversed it. I was in worse pain after than before all that. And that's the point. I think as I was talking to this family about their daughter, the daughter's coming to the same conclusion. These drugs are not helping. And thankfully she hasn't done Humira. But, inevitably, like we talk about the chapter, road to colostomy bags paved with anabolics and prednisone. So the chapter, I told them, It's free at robertscottbell.com. If you go to the website, let me just take you there now for our new viewers and listeners. You can scroll. It's closer to the top of the page, above all the banners on the right-hand side. It'll say, looking for the free chapter on Silver Aloe Protocol. Download it here. You just click it, and the PDF will magically pop up of that chapter and unlock the power to heal. And, it gives you the basic protocol. And I said you can add in the Alta Cangest as well, which will accelerate things, which is great. That's wonderful. And for those of you who want to use bioactive silver hydrosol, we added this into the mix too. There's a kind of a quick reference cheat sheet, how to use silver. All these different ways you can use it in the ear, the eye, for females, stuff like that. And I'm not selling anything, but I just thought I'll give you some insight into how to use it. So that's a quick cheat sheet for those of you who are not sure how to use silver in some ways. And there you go. That's all at the website. Look at all the cool stuff you can get at robertscottbell.com. Sign up for email alerts. What else we got? I want to thank everybody that participated in the 5G Summit, or if you did sign up early enough before it happened and you didn't watch it, you can still download it later, which is awesome. But if you missed signing up, then I can't help you on that one. Let's see what else we got. Updates. United Medical Freedom Super PAC. Yeah, we got that. Your Health Freedom. Next Health Freedom Symposium has been moved to, it's now September 18th through 19th. It's a Friday, Saturday in Pleasant Grove, Utah. Dr. Andy Wakefield will be there. Brian Hooker will be presenting. I'll be presenting. A 2-day event. You'll find out exactly where it is when you get your ticket. Click on yourhealthfreedom.org. And then when you buy a ticket, you'll find out where it is, but not before then. But it's so awesome. 2 days. And I think it includes food. $49. That's insane. I'm like, you should double that. Okay, I told her, but she's not. She's making it real inexpensive. So if you want to hang out with people that are not afraid and don't wear masks, come on, check it out. It's really going to be awesome. All right, what else are we missing here, Super D, as far as interactions, questions, comments?
Yahweh forever. Wife has nerve damage in shoulder from car accident. What should she take?
Well, CBD is big. Kratom is helpful, but like Pat was taking, the essential fatty acids, omega-3s, are also very important. And silicon or silica, right? We talk about alta silica for nerve regeneration, all connective tissue regeneration. But that can be a long road to hoe, so to speak. My wife has been dealing with trigeminal neuralgic issues for years, damage from dental extractions. And we've managed it the best way we can with everything we know, including prayer. We've been utilizing kratom and CBD and fats as well. And now, we're experimenting with the limbic arc, quantum signaling as well. And so keep open to options. And I know that in the chat room, folks are always willing to support one another. The kratom you get, if you haven't tried it, you can get, do we have John Bush coming on tomorrow? We confirm him?
Tomorrow.
Okay. So let me see if I can pull this up. Go back to the notes here. Those are we scroll it up. And where's John Bush? And did I go too fast? I probably did. Sorry to make everybody dizzy that's watching this. You can get your kratom. There it is. Free ounce of kratom. And these things rotate, so I'm never sure where they are in the mix. But click on this, free ounce of kratom. All you got to do is cover the shipping. And I recommend on your first order, get the 50% off deal or something like that to get all 5 different veins or strains. And John will hook you up. He's a great guy. And if you haven't tried it, it's amazing. My wife, who deals with a lot of pain issues, the red relaxation is her go-to. That works for her. Everybody's different. That's why we initially got all the different strains of them, vein colors, because they all have different impact. So find out which one works for you. There's not a one-size-fits-all on this. So hopefully that's helpful. What else we got?
Aconite.
Aconitum napellus. What about
aconite on my own, or is that something I need to get from an
ND?
Naturopath?
Well, homeopathic aconitum is available over the counter, so you should be able to get it in health food stores, natural pharmacies, or online. There's no restriction on the sale of aconite. If aconite was labeled as a cure for cancer, they would restrict it, of course. But right. No, there's no restriction to Aconitum napellus. It's a great remedy. First sign of anything, take aconite. Homeopathically, of course. So, what else? Did you send the link to Ty on?
Yeah, I put it in Skype form.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yep.
And let's see what else we got.
Juniper wants to know if there's a homeopathic medicine to bring logic and critical thinking back.
Wow. Dude, that's asking the right question, right?
What would that be? Homeopathic what?
Well, I'm going to always start and defer to the liver polycrest remedies. Why? Because when your liver is congested, you're not thinking clearly. There's going to be downstream negative consequences of not detoxifying. Foggy brain, lack of clarity. I'm not saying it's the only thing, because a lot of this, of course, is programming. And my journey, Super D, I started, actually years before my health journey started. When I prayed to God for answers to help heal me, I had to get grounded in spiritual principles to be open enough to hear what I was about to learn one day in homeopathy and organic food, etc. But deprogramming from the cult of those who programmed you to have wrong beliefs is ultimately what has to happen. And then you no longer just take what is coming at you at face value and you say, hey, let me analyze that to see if that makes sense as I look at things critically now and not just accept them because you're an authority figure. So clearing my liver was important, and it helped me to see deeper into things and listen to my own body's communication signals and interpret them correctly. So it's not wrong to start with your liver. I would start there. Homeopathically, Bryonia alba, my favorite. Nux vomica, if you've got some stomach as well issues, and chelidonium. It's one of the great liver polycrests as well in homeopathy. Start there and then move on out. What else?
Okay, so let's see. Hemp. Is there a key discount?
I don't know, but we saw. Yeah, there's always, if you click through on the banners that we have for Key Technologies, you'll automatically be they'll deduct the discount, so you have the best price available.
Actually, for any of the stuff that we talk about here, always make sure you use the banner, because that will more often than not give you the discount, or the all you have to do is just use the promo code.
Mm-hmm. Removing fluoride, I thought about that. I think Peter put that in, if I'm not mistaken. Take a pinch of borax to help detox from fluoride out of the brain. Yeah, that's another aspect of this. Heavy metal detox, fluoride detox, etc., so you can think clearly again.
The different strains. I'll tell you what, Pat, or not Pat, I guess Heidi's asking the question of Pat. Mm-hmm. So Heidi, make sure you tune in tomorrow and have your Kratom questions ready for John.
Mm-hmm.
We've got him on tomorrow because he's the Kratom dude.
Yeah, and bring him.
Murdoch is asking about if we have a Patreon milestone coming up.
We did give away a couple more T-shirts at the last Ask Me Anything, and we have to give homeopathic remedies, speaking of, before the end of the month. But that's for everybody, as long as they're signed up to get email alerts, because you tell people how to enter the contest.
Excuse me. So yeah, we haven't really set a new milestone. We've got 109 right now.
Okay.
We actually, you know what? We should do, like, do you hear watch the Hunger Games?
Yeah, I remember those movies. Yeah.
Like every time somebody died, they'd have like the sound, dun, 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 and it would be like on the thing like that. We lost.
I hope it's not like that. Well, yeah, not everybody stays forever. We know that.
Yeah. So, but we've got room for more. So I don't know. I don't know what that milestone should be.
Murdoch says 150.
150.
Yeah.
That would be major. And I'll tell you what, we've reached the other milestones that we've set, and I didn't think that we would, and we did.
You still haven't gone out wearing a funny mask.
No, I haven't. I might get a mulligan on that one. But I don't know. We'd have to think of something. If we had 150 patrons, what would that amount to? I don't know.
Coffee and for Super Don?
Why is it always me? Have you ever noticed there's a pattern here, right? It's always Super Don.
I was hoping you wouldn't figure that out.
Do something. But
it's more interesting when you do it. I mean, I do this every day.
another thing like we did before with the Copacabana.
I think we got to do something like that. Yeah, I agree.
Not just to me.
All right. So what is it? We'll figure it out. 150. You and me will do something.
Yeah, I don't know. What would it be?
Okay.
I guess you guys have to come up with whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll entertain the idea.
We'll entertain the idea. But in the meantime.
But then we're going to put it on you guys
mm-hmm.
to go out there.
You got to recruit.
And recruit people and convince them why it's such a great idea. Now, I know that you and I had talked earlier today that there is some new content that we are going to be putting up on Patreon.
Yeah, in fact, because we did this thanks to Dr. Daryl Joffrey, my buddy, the Get Off Your Sugar Summit. But we have the interviews I conducted available, and we're going to slowly release them to the our Patreon audience, those that support us directly. So the first one I've asked Super Don to release is Dr. Zach Bush, Law of the Terrain. He's brilliant. I love him. And so that will be up, I don't know, soon, but you've got that ready. So that'll be our next big bonus material available to our Patreon supporters. And there's more to come. Yeah.
Correct. And I mean, listen, I've got all kinds of neat ideas of stuff that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that will come soon. It's just a matter of finding the time to be able to do it.
Right.
But, as far as content and stuff like that we want to put up on Patreon, that's going to continue to grow and expand. So in any case, yeah, I mean, you guys want to go with 150, we can go with 150. But then, like I said, we need you guys' help in helping us reach that number. So we'll talk about it. Give us some ideas. Shoot me an email, askrsb@gmail.com. You can also submit comments and questions and stuff at the website on the contact page.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll come up with something.
Yeah.
Mom says we should do a Neil Diamond song.
Yeah, well, it's going to be harder on you than it was for me to do Barry Manilow. But yeah, we could do that.
Why would that be harder on me? He's got a lower octave, voice. I could hit that range.
I thought you hated Neil Diamond.
Oh, whatever. It's not my first choice, but I mean, if people want us to do a Neil Diamond music video, if we had 150, I'd do it.
Okay. We
should do like Sweet Caroline or something. That would be fun.
No, we have to pick up some B-side that you don't know.
No, then I don't want to do it.
All right. We'll work on it.
All right.
We'll work on it. All right, folks. Well, another great show, I thought, and Super Don hit home runs with all the articles and laying them out beautifully, and we got to knock them down as we went. But folks, this is not a time to be depressed or living in fear. Quite the opposite. This is more. It's just like I said. Don't break the cycle of spirit flowing to you. This is where you have to strengthen it in so-called emergencies. And if we can help you do that in any way, I'm glad to serve in that way. So with that, we'll be back certainly less than 22 hours from now. I think that's right. And anything else you got, submit those questions and comments. We'll get to them on the air as well. And thanks for helping to share the show. Please share as well the 12-minute presentation I gave at the rally, because I think it helped people to see things in a different way. That's why I did it. And if you think it's beneficial, please don't be afraid to share it. And with that, we'll sign off and see y'all tomorrow. Right? Yeah.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
being here. Thank you.